Yeah, I didn't ask. I was kind of waiting for his car.
Well, it's amazing how you all quieted down right at the hour. Good evening, everybody, and we are ready to start our joint meeting of the City Council, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, Public Finance Authority, Public Utility Authority, the Housing Authority, Perris Joint Powers Authority, and the Perris Community Economic Development Corporation of the City of Perris. It's Tuesday, July 30th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Perris, Mayor Pro Tem Magana,
Here.
Councilmember Corona, Councilmember Rabb,
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Here, thank you. Item 3 is our invocation, which will be led by Pastor Wade Ford of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We're going to stand for that, and if you could remain standing for item 4, which will be our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor Vargas, and the rest of the City Council and all the distinguished leaders of this great community and those who have arrived. Let's pray. God, we pause in this moment, Father, with hearts of gratitude, that in the midst of life's changes, transitions, difficulties, and challenges, God, you remind us that while we have breath in our lungs, while we have blood in our veins, and while our minds are still operating, that, Father, that life still has hope. That, God, as we've been blessed to be a part of a city that has a great tradition of progress and integrity, let it be that the mantle continues to thrive, that the torch continues to burn, and that our leaders continue to follow only the guidance of our Savior. That, Father, we would be a community continually looked at for how it's growing in so many different ways and fashions, how there's so many opportunities coming to this Perris Valley, that, Father, we are grateful for its leadership. We are grateful for the hardworking men and women that, Father, have to entangle the difficulties in how to lead this great city into a future that for our next generations will always create and instill hope for a better day a-coming. So, Lord, we ask that you would protect the minds, the hearts, God, even the souls of our leaders. That, Father, that you would keep their hand to the plow of progress, of ingenuity and ethic, of integrity and wisdom, that not just would they be able to share a vision, but God, we'd be able to see the vision being lived out in their lives, and that the young people of this community would not have to look on social media to find a modeled example of great leadership. They wouldn't need to open up books and look towards literature. They wouldn't need to see it on TV, but God, right here in this community, they'd be able to see the kind of leadership that would cause them, Father, to strive for greatness right within the confines of this little bitty city of greatness. So, Father, we thank you and pray that this meeting this evening would not just be about business as usual, but about ways and means hope can continually be instilled in this community by the actions taken by its leadership and by its mayor. This, God, we pray in Jesus' name. Together we say, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. It's, you got to get prompts. You know, we've been to several meetings and events and what have you, and we have different pastors that take turns and alternate when they give the invocation. And it's amazing if you ever pay attention and notice that none of them have a booklet, none of them have a script written out, but yet they can just roll out this long speech that I couldn't even begin to even think of. So it's amazing talent that they have, so we appreciate that. Item 5 is report on closed session items. Mr. Q.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council met in closed session on the 3 items noted on the agenda. An update was provided by staff to the City Council. City Council provided direction to staff, but no reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Item 6 is presentation and announcements. 6A is a presentation of a plaque to Todak Legal Centers in honor of their being named the Nonprofit of the Year by Assemblyman Jose Medina. Want to go down for a photo? Lupita. So I looked down at Luce and told her, come on up, and I turned around to get the plaque and the microphone, and I got swarmed. I bet this is a good team. Okay, so this is a City of Perris Certificate of Recognition to Todak Legal Center, 2019 Nonprofit of the Year. May it be known that the Mayor and the City Council and the City of Perris hereby congratulate Todak Legal Center, founded in 1984 in the City of Perris, on being named Nonprofit of the Year by Assemblyman Jose Medina. We recommend and appreciate all that you do and serve migrant communities in Riverside, San Bernardino, and Imperial counties. This is presented on this 30th day of July of 2019. Felicidades. Vamos a tomar una foto. What, pull it separately? Do it separately?
No, oh, is it in here? It's on consent.
I'm gonna let it go, and then, but I'll talk about it at the conclusion of consent. Okay, item 6B is the City of Perris Employee of the Quarter recognition for the second quarter of 2019. And this item will be introduced by our city manager, Mr. Richard Belmudez.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. Once again, it's that time for our Employee Recognition Committee to recognize our Employee of the Quarter. So the Employee Recognition Committee, as you recall, was made up of members of each department, and they meet quarterly to nominate and review applications for Employee of the Quarter. So I believe tonight, Mr. Suarez, our code enforcement representative from the Code Enforcement Department, is here to introduce this quarter's Employee of the Quarter. Mr. Suarez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you for taking some time out of tonight's meeting to join me in congratulating and recognizing our second quarter Employee of the Quarter, Kimberly Esteva. I started working with Kimberly just over 2 years ago. There's nothing negative to say. She's early every day. She has the answers. She helps not only our department, but other departments. If there's an answer she doesn't have, she will get it for you soon. So this couldn't have gone to a more deserving employee. And once again, congratulations.
Good evening, all. I just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be here at the city. It's now been approximately 5 years with the city of Perris, and looking forward. Thank you again.
Mr. Mayor, I do want to point out, Kimberly was nominated for her role as receptionist at the Code Enforcement Department, and that her letter that went out last week said that, and then she was promoted just last Friday, and she'll be our new Code Enforcement Officer. So congratulations.
Yes. I guess we can just put this plaque back away then. Are you here solo? Who's here? The whole another gang. Come on up here, gang. Oh yeah, the husband and the kids, sure. Good family support. So we're issuing a certificate of recognition presented to Kimberly Esteva, Employee of the Quarter, second quarter 2019. May it be known that the mayor and the city council of the city of Perris hereby recognize Kimberly Esteva for her dedication and unwavering commitment to the city of Perris. Your efforts are commendable and greatly appreciated. Presented this 30th day of July 2019. In addition to that, she's going to be receiving a gift certificate to somewhere. Well, if it's for Sizzler, besides them, you got to take the council too. Hold that.
Oh, yes, I do.
7A is our approval of minutes. There are no questions. I entertain a motion to approve. A motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilman Corona. Please call the vote.
Five oh, motion approved.
Item 8 is our consent calendar. Consent calendar are items normally enacted in one motion. The mayor and city council may remove a consent calendar from a separate vote. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. And I think we have some items to be pulled. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, staff is requesting item I be pulled for a separate vote. And also, we're requesting item X as an X-ray be pulled and continued in order to provide an attachment that was not provided. So, and I believe Mayor Pro Tem wants to make a statement in regards to item I when the vote occurs.
Okay, so we're just dealing with I and X. Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Mayor, if I may. For item L, 8L, there's a reference to an Exhibit G in the agreement. That was a typographical error. When the agreement is finalized, we will make sure to correct all the typos before the agreement is signed.
But we're still going with it on the consent.
Correct.
Okay,
Just a note.
noted. Anything else?
I made a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar, not including I and X.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers and a second by Councilman Rab, as stated, pulling out item I and X. We can call the vote, please. Let me backstep a moment. Was there any public request to speak on this?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, please vote, everybody.
Yeah.
It's okay.
5-0, motion approved.
Very good. So we will start with item 8I.
Yes,
This is the one that we needed somebody to step out, right?
that would be me, Mayor. I'd have to recuse myself. I don't have to step out, but I will recuse myself from voting since I live in the community.
Okay, that's good. No problem. Anything else on that one? So if I can entertain a motion to approve item I. I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilman Corona. Call the vote. It's still pushed.
Rogers, Corona, Rab, Vargas, yes. Magana, abstain.
Very good. And item X is being pulled for later as another meeting, right?
Correct. We'll bring it back on the 13th.
Okay, so we're done with consent. Item 9 is our public hearings. The public is encouraged to express your views on any matter set forth in this hearing. We will be limiting speakers to 3 minutes. Item 9A is the consideration to adopt resolution number next in order approving the annexation of PM 37304, Mr. Duke Perris, to the city maintenance districts. This will be introduced by Habib's our city engineer, Stuart McKibben. Thank you very much.
For items, I like to combine items 9A and 9B. They'll both be presented to the council by Daniel Louie.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And I also wanted to pass along that Habib had successful surgery, and he wanted to tell everyone he was fine, and he was already using his walker, and everything's good. So.
That's good, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This item, 9A on the agenda, is for PM 37304 Duke Perris is industrial warehouse project. As a condition of approval, the project is required to annex into the city's 3 maintenance districts to pay for benefits and annual costs associated with the property once it's developed. The proposed maximum annual assessment for the project is $38,989.40. On June 11th, the council approved resolutions initiating the annexations, and tonight is the public hearing. At this time, staff is asking the mayor to open and close the public hearing. Following the hearings, the city clerk is to open the ballots. There are 2 ballots per district for this project. If there is no majority protest, the city council can consider the approval of the resolutions confirming the annexations. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Before I open up public comments, does any council have any questions for clarifications? All right, we're going to open up public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Is there anybody at this time wishing to speak on this particular matter? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close public comment. I will now call for the city clerk to open the ballots.
City of Perris annexation of PM 37304, Maintenance District Number 84-1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Perris annexation of PM 37304 to benefit Zone 145, Landscape Maintenance District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Perris annexation of PM 37304 to benefit Zone 111, Flood Control Maintenance District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Perris annexation of PM 37304, Maintenance District Number 84-1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Perris annexation of PM 37304 to benefit Zone 145, Landscape Maintenance District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Perris annexation of PM 37304 to benefit Zone 111, Flood Control Maintenance District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll call for a motion on all 3 resolutions. Have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers and a second by Councilman Rabb. Please call the vote, please.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. 9B is consideration to adopt resolution numbers next in order, approving annexation of CUP 16-0528. And this will be introduced again by our city engineer, Stuart McKibben.
And I'll turn it right over to Mr. Daniel Louie for the presentation.
Item 9B is the annexation of CUP 16-05258, Cali Express Car Wash. Again, as a condition of approval, it's required to annex into the maintenance districts to pay for benefits and costs associated with the development of the property. The property is on the northwest corner of Perris Boulevard and Ramona Expressway. On the same corner is an existing Arco gas station, which is already in the maintenance districts, but is being re-annexed into the LMD1 and Flood Control District 1 with new improvements to be installed. Proposed maximum annual assessment is $8,998.20. At this time, staff is requesting the mayor to open and close a public hearing, and then have the election ballots and consider the approval of the resolutions. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Daniel. Council, any questions, comments for clarification? Very good. We'll open up public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Is anybody at this time wishing to speak on this particular matter? Hearing or seeing none, we'll close public comment. And I'll call for the city clerk to open the ballots, please.
City of Perris annexation of CUP 16-05258, Maintenance District Number 84-1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Perris annexation of NW corner of Perris Boulevard and Ramona Expressway to benefit Zone 109, Flood Control Maintenance, District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Perris annexation of NW corner of Perris Boulevard and Ramona Expressway to benefit Zone 143, Landscape Maintenance, District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Magana and a second by Councilman Rab. Please call the vote.
Five oh, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 9C is consideration to adopt resolution numbers next in order approving annexation of CUP 16-05258. And this will be introduced by Ron Carr, Interim Director of Finance.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The purpose of this item is to give the council the opportunity to consider an increase in the city's rubbish collection charges. And prior to opening the public hearing, there is a representative from CR&R here with a PowerPoint to provide additional information.
We're on the wrong one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're on 9C. This is another resolution for Kelly Express Car Wash for Public Safety Facilities District.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask Daniel Louie to come up and then provide information on this item.
On this item, it's the same project as 9B, the CUP 16-05258. It is an annexation to the Public Safety CFD as a condition of development for this project. So tonight is the public hearing. We will hold a public hearing, and then if there are no objections, hold the election and approve a resolution to record a notice of special tax.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? All right, we'll open up public comment or public hearing. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak? Is
No, sir.
there anybody at this time wishing to speak on this particular matter? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close public comment. And we're going to first call for the motion on the first resolution, calling the election. And then you're going to open up the ballot. So I need a motion. I have one by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilman Rab. Call the vote.
Five oh, motion approved.
Thank you. And now, Madam Clerk, if you'll open up the ballot.
Community Facilities, District Number 2001-3, North Perris Public Safety of the City of Perris, Annexation Number 30. Special Tax and Appropriations Limit Elections, the ballot is marked yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll now call for a motion on the second resolution declaring the results of the election. I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Magana. Call the vote.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Okay, 9D is consideration to adopt resolution next in order, amending the rubbish collection charges, section 7.16.050 subdivision D of the Perris Municipal Code, pursuant to the agreement with CR&R and the rescinding resolution number 5301. And this will be introduced by Interim Director of Finance, Ron Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a representative from CR&R here this evening to go through a PowerPoint with you prior to opening the public hearing that will provide more information on this proposed rate increase.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Alex Brekovich. I'm Senior Regional Vice President with CR&R. Before you tonight is our request for the 2019-2020 rate adjustment. What I'd like to do tonight is go over some of the issues behind that adjustment and why we're asking for the extraordinary increase this year. So first of all, there's a policy called the China Sword National Policy. And what this is basically China has imposed trade restrictions on recycling commodities. And this is an issue that's affecting the industry worldwide, not just CR&R, not just the United States, but across the world. A little bit of background. In 2016, China was importing 45 million tons of recyclable materials from across the world. That's half of the global recyclable exports. That material was worth about $18 billion. The U.S. alone exported 16 million tons of materials valued at $5.6 million, about 1/3 of China's waste imports. An interesting note is that the #1 export from the LA Long Beach ports was recyclable materials coming out of Southern California. Approximately 60% of the recycled materials from the West Coast were exported to China. China filed notice with the World Trade Organization in 2017 announcing a 0.3% contamination limit on all imported recyclable materials. Contamination meaning trash inside the recyclables. The second filing was in November of 2017 where they relaxed those limits to a whole 0.5% contamination limits, not much. The filings affected 24 different material categories. Notably, China will effectively no longer accept non-industrial, post-consumer mixed plastics and mixed paper waste. The global impacts of China's actions are obvious. There's a global glut of recycled materials right now. The commodity prices have been depressed. It's basically supply and demand. And alternative processing markets in other countries are there, but they're there at very significantly reduced rates. And in some cases, even those markets are going away. The local impacts of China's sword are also obvious. The lack of markets to sell the most common municipal recyclables, including mixed paper and plastics and cardboard and newsprints, is evaporating. The significant drop or negative value of materials is unprecedented. The lower revenues for recycle processors to offset the cost for our recycling programs is basically evaporated. And that's what we use to offset those costs, is the sale of material from recyclables. This chart shows the impact that the China sword policy has had on the industry. You can see that in January of 2017, about 200,000 metric tons of mixed paper was exported to China. You can see in January of 2018, that blue column is basically almost zero. Same thing with scrap plastics. So in 2017, approximately 65% of material values offered a reasonable processing return. What that means is once they're collected and processed, what's left over, that's the return from the materials. Today, that's basically flipped. Those material streams are now a cost liability. Many of our communities struggle with material streams that are up to 45% contaminated. Earlier this year, China announced its intent to ban all waste imports by 2020. 16 material types were banned in 2018, and an additional 16 are going to be banned by the end of this year. So some of the short-term responses and strategies to this issue is a lot of processors have slowed their processing lines. What does that mean? Well, when you slow your line, you reduce your productivity and you increase your costs on top of the fact that you're not getting paid for your material. So it's basically a double whammy for you. There have been some new markets, reduced material values associated with those new markets. They aren't stable. India is now joined this party, and they are also looking at reducing and eliminating imports of recycled materials. Stockpiling of materials. If you were to go to some of our facilities, I was at a competitor's facility a couple of weeks ago, and you will see stacks and stacks and stacks of bales because there's simply no market to take these materials to. And what markets there are limited, and in some cases, those markets are evaporating daily. Many cases across the West Coast, some companies are landfilling their materials just because there are no markets, and that is the most economical way to get rid of some of this material. It's unfortunate because as an industry, we've worked really hard for the past 30 plus years to get this recycling program up and going. And now we're faced with some unprecedented issues that we never imagined we'd ever would. Waste to energy and other technologies, these are being evaluated. We're looking at some different technologies for the long term. I get asked all the time, well, what's going to happen? Where are we going to go? Unfortunately, we don't have that crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 or 24 months. It really is one of those issues that is outside of our control. This is a issue that's global, that's being taken over by forces we just don't have any control over. Some of the next steps, we're reevaluating public ed in terms of contamination issues, the current system, the rates, the revenues, the contamination fees, the waste and recycling streams. We're trying to communicate our concerns to all of our stakeholders, including Cal Recycle, who is basically our boss at the state level, all of our cities, monitoring the global markets and exploring new markets and technologies. So this is an issue that, as I mentioned earlier, it's unprecedented. I've been in this business over 30 years, and we've never, ever had an issue like this before. And, as I've said to many people, shame on the industry for putting all your eggs in one basket. But the other side of that coin is there are no paper mills left in the state of California. They've all been basically run out of the state. And so now we're faced with having to rely on outside markets, and now these outside markets are evaporating. They're going away. So how does this impact the city of Perris directly? Part of our rate review process today, we're asking for obviously our annual contractual CPI adjustment that's in our contract. Along with that is the annual Riverside County landfill adjustment. And in addition to that, we're asking for the extraordinary China sword adjustment. I'd like to go through those with you. The annual consumer price index this year came in at 2.71%. On the residential rate, that equates to 61 cents per month. The Riverside County landfill increase this year is 3.05%. On the residential rate, that's about 16 cents a month. The extraordinary rate adjustment, as I mentioned earlier, it's used to offset the loss of material sales and the offset of the cost of the recycling programs. The extraordinary rate adjustment will be reviewed annually. So if something changes and those recycling markets come back, we are proposing to put that extraordinary fee on a separate line item, which is easy to see and easy to pull out if we need to. That adjustment is 50 cents, and obviously there's a franchise fee on top of that. The commercial annual adjustment, the CPI is 2.71%. Riverside annual increase is 3.05%. And the rate increase will vary depending on a commercial business's level of service between 2.9 and 3.2%. That concludes my presentation, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, do we have any protests? Have any protests been received?
Yes, the City Clerk's Office of the City of Perris has received 2 valid protests regarding this item.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open up public hearing. Do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Is there anybody wishing to speak on this particular matter now? Hearing and seeing none, we will close public hearing. And
Mr. Mayor, if I may, before we close the public hearing, I wanted to confirm with the city clerk that only 2 protest ballots have been received.
Correct.
And I would want to note for the record that is less than 50% plus 1 required to successfully protest this item.
thank you. Okay, so public hearing is now closed. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve. You have some questions? Yeah. All right. We got Councilman Rabs on the queue first. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I had a few questions for Mr. Bragovich, namely regarding the extraordinary rate increase. What are some of the other cities you contract with in the region, and have you asked the other cities to approve such a rate increase, and what is their rate increase comparable to the city of Perris?
Great question. All of our agencies have been asked for the same amount, 50 cents a month. All of them have been approved on 5-0 votes, including the Board of Supervisors. There are 2 agencies that the item is coming before them in the next couple of weeks, but everybody else has gotten the same exact request.
Okay. And another related question. Are you aware of any of your competitors, such as Burtech or Waste Management? Have they also implemented a similar fee to the cities they provide in the region?
Yes, they have. I'm aware of the counties. It's over $1. I think it's $1.04, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't have specifics on what the other agencies are, but I have been made aware that their requests are similar to ours.
And one last question regarding new markets. You mentioned India as a market. Are there any other developing markets, maybe countries such as Nigeria or any of the Kazakhstan or Turkmenistan or any other country do you know that is working to take that void that China's caused?
I'll be honest with you, I don't. But I know that there are a lot of countries along the Pacific Rim that are brokering material. But again, those are minuscule in terms of the amount of material that China was taking in, and they're not able to take in as much as China was at the time. That's not to say that other markets won't develop, and we're hoping that they will. At the same time, like I mentioned earlier, there's new technologies that everybody is looking at in order to not put our eggs all in one basket again.
And one final question regarding the public education campaign you mentioned earlier. What are some of the steps that your agency and other agencies and some of the steps the City of Perris could move forward on in educating the public regarding contamination and the best way to dispose of their recyclables?
Our plan is to later this year roll out some public education, direct mail. Also putting it on websites, our website, the city's website. We also have folks available to go out into the community and speak to groups, and we're open to doing that. But I have to be honest, we've been doing this for 30 years, and the contamination levels are what they are. It's very difficult to get folks to, I mean, even my own kids, I have to tell them where to put their stuff. So it's an uphill battle. But we're going to do our best to try and get as much education out there as possible. I've approached some cities, if they have their own public channel, to put some advertisement on there, some public edit there. So we're looking at different ways to do that as much as possible.
Thank you. That
Thank
concludes
you.
my questions.
Councilman Corona.
Yes. I do have a couple questions. To follow up with one of the questions that Councilman Rabb stated with regards to other agencies. You did state all other agencies. It's been 5-0 votes for the 50-cent increase. Is that including all the agencies that?
All the agencies that we have gone to, yes.
Okay, so they've all voted before.
All vote approved it,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, now with the 2.71% increase, have they all voted on that yet?
Well, everybody's contract is a little bit different, and they use different indexes. Some are higher, some are lower. Most of them are higher, though. They're ranging around the 3% number. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but yes, it's CPI plus the 50 cents.
Oh, okay. So, because I'm just trying to see how we got the numbers. In fact, is it possible to get those numbers back on and how we got that the rate increase? I think it totaled 5.4%.
Yes, total.
Okay. Okay. So I do kind of have a couple questions. Of all your agencies that contract with you, which city pays the highest? Are there any cities that pay more than the city of Perris?
Yes, there are.
Can you tell me which ones?
I think that was in some information I sent earlier to your folks.
Okay,
I think on the top was Duluth, Wildemar.
Okay, now, going back to that, I did see a net rate, but when you include everything else with the service fees and the disposal fees and everything, are there any cities that pay more than Perris? I'm basing it on the total rate.
Well, again, if you're looking at the total rate, you're not looking at the whole picture, because the total rate includes your franchise fee, and it includes a disposal fee that we pay the county. So that is not what we get. That's why you back out disposal and franchise fees, because it leaves you with a net rate.
Okay, so now going back to the net rate fee, why do some cities, like for example Hemet, they pay substantially less? So if you want to base on the net fee, City of Perris pays $17.88, but Hemet pays $12.76. That's quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah, there's some that pay more than
difference.
some that pay more than the city of Perris. There's some that pay less than the city of Perris. It all depends on when the contracts were negotiated and what they were negotiated for at that time. It also has a lot to do with the service levels that each city has. There are some services that the city of Perris enjoys that other cities don't have. And so it's not as simple as just saying, let's look at the total rate. The total rate is made up of a lot of other things behind it, including service levels.
No, I do see that the city of Perris does receive lots of services, more services than other cities.
Right.
Can you explain to our residents what some of those services
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The city of Perris receives its enhanced community cleanup programs. For example, the week before the cleanups, you're able to go to our facility and bring as much trash as you would like and dump it at our transfer station, on top of the cleanups that we do in the community. Thank you, Fausto. I locked myself out of my office tonight. So. The city of Perris also is the only city that is able to use our fueling station free of charge And all of your city vehicles are fueled with our anaerobic digester. And so you are running the cleanest trucks in the county of Riverside by using our renewable natural gas. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what else is there.
I think our residents could go and get compost as well, too.
Yes,
right?
free compost giveaways as part of the cleanups. Trying to think what else. I can't think off the top of my head what else there is there, Mr.
So excluding the 50 cent, right, which is passed on to everybody equally.
Yes.
How is our increase now? Is our increase going to be $1.55 including that 50 cents, or is it going to be $1.55 plus 50 cents?
No, it's $1.54.55 including that 50 cents.
Okay.
Yes.
So minus the 50 cents and a little bit of the franchise agreement portion of it.
Franchise
it's going to
fee,
be roughly about 96 cents. Is that what I kind of figured out? Is
Um,
there any way to separate them?
Oh, you mean the CPI component versus the, yes, the CPI portion, oh.
Okay, so if you took out that one.
So the CPI portion is 94 cents, and the extraordinary is 61 cents, including your franchise fee. So it's 50 cents plus the 11 cents, because you have an 18% franchise fee.
Okay, and we're basing that on what the residents are paying right now. So on CPI, because it's based on percentage, and it's a percent increase.
Yes.
If you're paying more, then your increase is gonna be more.
Correct.
Is that
Correct, on a percentage basis, yeah.
Right,
But this year, you happen to have one of the lower CPIs at 2.7%.
also some other cities have a higher CPI?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they just use a different index. When the contract was negotiated, they chose a different index.
Okay. Now, how about a low-paying city like the city of Hemet? Where's their CPI at?
Their CPI came in at, don't quote me on this, but it was over 3%. I could get you the number, I just don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
The other thing that I think is worth mentioning, when we went through the process with your staff, we are going to change the index next year to use there's a new index that the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out every year. For many years, all of the cities out here in Riverside County used an index that was pegged to the Anaheim, Riverside, Long Beach areas because it was the closest index to Riverside County. BLS came out with a new index. It started in January of 2018 that pegs it to the Inland Empire cities, Ontario, Riverside, San Bernardino. And we are going to start using that index next year. The reason we couldn't start using it sooner is because there wasn't enough data points going back to do the adjustment. But we think that index is going to come in even a little bit lower.
Okay.
So I just want to throw that in there because we're doing that next year.
Yeah. I do appreciate that. Because I was under the impression that we were all kind of using the same.
Yeah, no, and even after next year, some cities have chosen not to use that index. So it's a city by city decision.
Yeah, well, I'm just a bit hesitant to ever increase fees. I completely understand the wages go up. Ultimately, just services in general, they seem to go up. But I know our residents, especially here in Perris, their wages don't always go up.
I understand, and like I've told every city that I've had to do this year with, trust me, this is the last thing I want to be doing. Right? I hate coming in front of you guys and having to have this discussion, but it's called extraordinary for a reason. This is totally out of our norm, and I understand it's a difficult decision. I get that, and we employ over 300 people at our facility here in Perris. It's a facility known now worldwide for the AD facility that we built, and so we've put a lot of investment into the community. And we're very happy to be here, and we're very happy to to be a partner with you. But we understand this is not easy. We understand this is difficult, and trust me, if I didn't have to do this, I wouldn't be here doing it. So we're hopeful. We're hopeful that the recycling markets find a way to get back to what they were. And until then, we're looking at this extraordinary adjustment.
Right now, the 50-cent increase, I completely understand. That was kind of out of your control. Everyone
Sure.
else seems to be having to move on forward with it. It's kind of out of the control of everybody else. It's just the problem is it's being passed on to our residents who absolutely had nothing to do with it.
Understood.
So hopefully you can understand the concern of that.
Oh, sure.
Now, what the issue though is that and I don't mean to attack CRNR. You were currently here in the city of Perris. You've been a good friend. I'm just trying to make the best deal for our residents, ensure that they're getting a fair deal, seeing how you're in the city. So their services don't require a lot of extra effort as opposed to Temecula. They're kind of a little bit more of a distance. And with the pros and cons that you guys bring, you've always been involved in city events and you're doing great work with green technology, and we definitely appreciate that. In the past, it hasn't always been a happy place for the residents near your place, but with the big changes that you guys made, that people are more happier.
Thank you.
So it's definitely a pros and cons with our fees seem to be a little higher, but we're getting more services. The trucks are messing up our roads quite a bit, but at the same time, you also employ a lot of our residents.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that. But I would just like to see what the increase for the other cities are going to be compared to the city of Perris. Now I understand that it's based on percentage wise, but if we're already paying this high, then we're going to pay a lot more. Whether a city that's paying low, like a city in the same median income, say Hemet, then they're going to pay a little less. So it'd just be kind of more interesting to see that. I've already seen some numbers. I was playing around with the calculator and stuff like that, but I wasn't aware of some of the extra numbers that were in there. I'm for voting for the 50 cent increase, but I'm just not comfortable at this time myself. This is just me of voting for the CPI until we get more information. I'm just looking for a fair way for what's fair for our residents, but that's just where I stand right now.
Understood.
And it has nothing against.
Understood.
Sierra.
Totally get it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much, Mayor. And to trail off that, I was wondering, so we understand that it's going to be about $1.55 increase for residents. So that equals to $18.60 a year, and $6.12 of that is due to the 50-cent increase, right? So is there an additional service, or if we were to pass this 50-cent increase, or will we face any kind of loss of service if we would not approve that here?
Not that I can think of, no.
Okay, so it's basically just to offset the CRNR.
Offset the costs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically to make up for the lost revenue that we were getting from recyclables.
Okay, and then you mentioned that it could be removed at any one point, right?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're good? You're good, Rita?
I'm good.
By the time it gets to me, it's like everybody's asked my questions. So I just want to reiterate a few things, and then maybe a couple of different questions. So where do you go with this recycles now that they're not accepting them?
Well, I mean, we're still taking them. The
No,
challenge
you're taking them,
is
but where are you
that-
going to go? Where are they going to go?
Well, we're taking them, but we're not getting what we used to get. As an example, cardboard a couple years ago was selling for about $150 a ton. Today, it's about $25, $28 a ton.
Okay, so keep that,
So-
hold that concept real quick, or comment. Now, India, my understanding, that's not an option to go to. They're also doing the same thing too. Is that correct?
Correct.
So there's no option there.
Right.
So the whole thing about these recycles where you're sending them, that has, for over 3-4 decades, whatever it is, has been keeping our costs down to our residents. So without that, that doesn't help keep our billing down.
Correct.
So that's the need for that 50 cents.
Right.
And the $1.05 for just a regular CPI and franchise, whatever else, a month, that's $12.60.
It's 94 cents a month, so whatever that is times 12.
Well, if it's $1.05, it has to be $1.05 a month, because you add 50 cents to that, then there's $1.55.
Yeah, it's
That's
dollar.
My understanding, the entire fee is going to be $1.55 increase. That's including the 50 cents.
Right, right.
So you take that, so the increase, without that sword, whatever, what are you calling it? China sword?
Yeah, China sword.
Extraordinary.
Yes.
The increase this year with our franchise fee would be $1.05 a month.
Well, but what you didn't add in there, Mr. Mayor, is the franchise fee on top of the 50 cents, which is 11 cents.
So it's
the
not
total is
$1.50
61 cents.
So it's $1.61?
No, it's $1.55, 94 cents of that is CPI, and 61 cents of that is the extraordinary.
So the 50 cents is actually 61 cents.
But the total is $1.55.
That's correct.
Right, but they're also charging, on top of that is going to be the franchise fee of 18% that the city of
So the
Perris.
$1.55 does not include the franchise fee.
Yes, it includes everything.
That's what I just said, you guys. Okay, I don't know where I lost you guys. The total fee, everything for the month is $1.55.
That is correct.
If you take the 50 cents away of the extraordinary fee, the increase to our constituents, to our community, would have been $1.05.
You have to back out the 11 cents, that's part of that.
Mr. Mayor, the city collects 11 cents of the
So less 11 cents off the dollar. Okay, so that's even better.
That's the 94 cents.
Okay.
yes.
My point is, I'll probably say that, let's get to the point, Mayor. The total increase, we're currently paying $28.86 a month, and now we're going to be looking at somewhere around $30.41, if
That's
my
correct.
math is correct.
That's correct.
You can't even pay a phone bill with $30.41. My electric bill is 10 to 15 times more than that. My gas bill is pretty expensive. What I'm trying to just say is, this is one utility, is very cheap out of everybody else, and we appreciate that, but a lot of that has to do with the recycles being sent somewhere and you offsetting the fees to our people, and we do appreciate that.
Thank you.
And now it's come to where not just the city of Perris, but the United States has come against this, what's this word thing? China sword. Extraordinary. So, and as everybody else has mentioned, the nice thing about it, it is a separate line item. And hopefully someday someone out there will start being able to bring back this program where you'll be able to ship out to them and you can easily pull out that 50 cents at any
Correct.
time.
That's correct.
All right, in addition to all that, for staff, as mentioned, I have a hard time, Alex, with your last name.
Breakovich?
Breakovich. It's not just about the city, it's not just about CR&R. The city itself, we need to start an education campaign via our social media, via our television network, whatever, to help assist our community members on how to start really, truly recycling in the right way for this, to help with this greenhouse gases. And that brings me, this particular item brought me to my attention to Senate Bill 1383, which I was, passed before I became mayor, so I wasn't really quite aware of it. But Senate Bill 1383 refers to the greenhouse gases, and there is a lot more stuff coming down the pipeline if we don't start addressing these issues as a city. So more homework for the city manager. And maybe we can get some good educational materials out of this, and I'm sure we can partner with CNR too as well to help with that
Yes.
campaign.
We look forward to partnering with you on that issue. I'll take 2 seconds of 1383. 1383 is a law that's about 8 pages long, with regulations that are about 165 pages long. It is the most comprehensive, landscape-changing law in our industry, in the history of our industry. It will change everything we're doing and how we do it. Many of our cities, fortunately, have an anaerobic digester in their backyard that will handle the organics. But there's a lot more to 1383 than just that. And it will impact every jurisdiction in the state of California. For example, it will require cities to put in a edible food program. The edible food program will require that 20% of what is currently going into the landfill as edible food be rescued. So cities will have to work with local food banks. There's a lot of reporting behind this. In addition to that, there is extensive auditing, extensive sampling, extensive reporting, and it will, as I mentioned earlier, change the landscape of our business. So I urge all of our cities, and I have shared some of this information with your staff already, but to please look at SB 1383. It's going through its last stages of regulatory review. CalRecycle plans to have it done by the end of this year. And then there will be some deadlines that every city will need to meet. So we will be working closely with you, making sure that we keep the city of Perris in compliance with this new regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, we will entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor.
Yes.
I'm trying to motion if we could split them up, because it seems like there's two different fee increases. If somebody else wants to, if
Well, I have a motion by
That's fine.
Councilwoman Rogers, so you'll have to ask her to.
that's fine. But which is completely fine. But in the current item, I'm gonna have to vote no. I am in favor of the 50-cent increase. I just need a little bit more time and information. I did ask for it, but it's coming in different. I'm getting different numbers. So I definitely just want more time on that. But I'm in the current item, I'm gonna have to vote no.
Okay, again, we have a motion. I'm requesting a second, if there's a second out there. I have a second by Councilman Rabb. Please call the vote.
Rogers, Rab, Vargas, yes. Magana, Corona, no.
Okay, thank you. Before I jump into 9E, I have to make a quick comment that I forgot to make after we did our consent calendar. And if some of you weren't here early on and you see an art display here to your right, my left, that's how would I call that, Mr. Solis? A reproduction, there's the word. This is a reproduction of a mural that's in downtown and Boyle Heights area in Los Angeles. The reproduction of a 9-foot by 12 feet, 6 by 12, I was close. So in our consent calendar today, it was approved that Mr. Juan Solis here, this artist, will be conducting or painting a mural in our city, along with the help from our youth and anybody who wants to be involved in this program. There'll be more information down the road, but I just wanted to bring this out to everybody's attention. The contract is approved for a public art initiative, mural, wall project, and youth art classes. So looking forward to seeing a mural in our city, and we appreciate you, Mr. Juan Solis, for being here today and for you giving us, the city, this reproduction of this great mural that you did in Los Angeles. Thank you. Okay, 9E is consideration to adopt resolution number next in order, upholding the decision of the Planning Commission denying the appeal of a conditional use permit 19-05067 for a proposal to construct a 25-foot tall, 1,000 square foot double-faced illuminated on-site freestanding freeway sign located at 820 West Ryder Street. This item will be presented by Dr. Grace Williams, Director of Planning and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. This item will be presented by Kenneth Fung, our Planning Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. On June 19, 2019, the Planning Commission unanimously voted to deny the conditional use permit to construct a 25-foot tall, 100-square-foot double-phase illuminated freeway sign for Strains Dispensary located at 820 Ryder Street, as they concluded that Strain Dispensary has direct visibility along the I-215 freeway, which provides sufficient visibility for them to already advertise their business. In addition, Strain Dispensary already advertised on 2 static billboard signs along the 215 freeway, in addition to advertising on a billboard which has on a rotational basis. So they have adequate signage. In addition, by adding this additional freeway sign, they believe they would create unnecessary clutter that would potentially cause distraction for people who drive along the community, along the I-215 freeway. Just to provide a greater context for the location, the site is located at the northwest corner of Webster and Ryder Street, which is directly adjacent to the 215 freeway, surrounded by vacant land to the north and east. To the south is Ritchie Brothers, which is a current operation in the city of Perris. In addition, just wanted to show you what the sign looks like that's being proposed by the applicant. It's 25 feet tall. There's 100 square feet of signage area. 50% of that is digital display.
Before you continue on, just clarification, you said Webster. Is it not Frontage Road and Ryder?
Frontage Road and Webster, which is an unimproved street.
But that's a big difference between Webster and Frontage.
Webster,
go ahead.
If you look at the aerial before you, it is adjacent to Webster and Frontage Road, but...
oh, so it's going on the corner of their property, not the corner of Frontage Road and Ryder.
Correct. This is the display of the dispensary sign, what it would look like if it was to be approved. It's 25 feet tall. As I mentioned, 50% would be digital displayed and 50% would be a static for a typical freeway sign that would be visible at night if this was to be approved. This is a view along the I-215 freeway showing visibility. And then there's also a display what it would look like, what we call a photo simulation. You see what it would look like if the freeway sign was to be installed. Staff is continuing the recommendation of the Planning Commission for what I mentioned earlier. Staff did originally recommend approval because it did comply with the sign regulation, but because it's a CUP, there's discretion in recommending denial, and then based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission, we're continuing that recommendation to deny the project. So in conclusion, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution upholding the decision of the Planning Commission to deny the appeal of the conditional use permit based on the information presented in this report and the findings in the resolution. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Fung. Before we open public comments, Council have any clarification questions? All right, we're going to open up public hearing. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. Wade Abdullah.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm here because this is actually new to me that staff is denying the recommendation, because we went back and forth for months now with different sign designs and stuff like that.
So you're the applicant?
I am the applicant, yes, correct. And, you know, the reason why we need the sign is because if you guys are familiar, that used to be a restaurant. Prior to that, it used to be a house, a residence. So people are confused of where to find us. We get calls every day, hey, where are you guys at? So confusion occurs with our customers to exactly our proximity. Also, it complies with, all the regulations, all the city codes, all the we did studies with Caltrans and everything like that. So it complies with all city codes with the signage. And, there's dozens of signs along the 215 freeway, freeway signs close to the freeway. The ordinance allows within 660 feet of the freeway for a freeway sign. We're actually 225 feet, so we're well within, the freeway signs. Let's see, just other things. That's about it. I mean, our dispensary is a dispensary where we notice we get a higher clientele. People that were afraid to come out to dispensaries before now come to dispensaries to get their medicine and things of that nature. And that's all I have to say. Any questions? Feel free to ask.
Thank you. Anybody else?
That is all.
Anybody in the audience at this time wishing to speak on this particular matter? Hearing none, we'll close public comment. Council, any questions? I have Councilman Rabb in the queue.
Yes, this is a question for the applicant. Mr. Fung indicated that you had 2 static billboards, or you had billboards along the 215. Do you know where those 2 billboards are located?
We have one north and south of our proximity, and those billboards are expensive, obviously, and they're every month we're paying that cost just for people to find us, and that's why we need a sign in our business location.
And you indicated earlier that your business had what you would call a higher clientele. Do they have difficulty going on to Google and finding the address for your location?
I don't know about that, but we do get calls on the daily asking where our location is. Where is the location? And there's confusion within our customers, definitely.
Okay. And the last question is regarding the medical, I guess the marijuana sign, the green sign.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reasoning for putting that like smack dab on the? It kind of looks kind of tacky, to be honest with you.
It's the same thing. Hospitals put a red cross to signify it's a hospital. Green cross obviously signifies dispensaries, and
Okay.
I know a lot of dispensaries that have a green cross.
And just to play devil's advocate, what if a resident's watching this and they say, look, the last 2 years, the 215 from Nuevo to Harley Knox has become marijuana row. It's like you go down there and it's like marijuana here, marijuana there, marijuana everywhere. We really don't want this in our community. What would you tell them?
I would tell them, the state passed a resolution, the city of Perris passed a resolution to allow dispensaries. We're paying a lot of tax dollars to the city of Perris, which I don't mind at all. It's a good thing for the city, good thing for the community to get those tax benefits. And it's better to have a legal shop than an illegal shop that sells to minors and things like that. We're very regulated, and we only sell to 21 and over adults, or 18 over with a medical card.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, no one else is on the queue. I just have a couple of comments. You do?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead, Councilman Corona.
I do have a question for you. Which part of Perris are you currently a current resident of?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I'm not a resident of the city of Perris. Yeah, I actually grew up in Lake Matthews, so we had a Perris address. Yeah, and in Menifee. But I live in the high desert currently right now.
Are you guys currently located on some of the websites that people are kind of looking for dispensaries, like
Weed Maps?
Weed Maps?
Currently we are, but once again, it's everything costs money. Weed Maps, you'd be surprised of the cost they ask for to be on the website.
Okay, thank you. So, just have a couple comments. Just comments, not your question.
Okay.
But I know, I completely understand you're trying to stand out from everybody. There's so many there, but I know exactly where your place is at from the freeway, because when I drive by, it stands out as a location. Where the other place, I totally get it, and I don't think finding your place is that difficult, because I just literally just Google mapped your place, Strains Dispensary, and it popped up right there. So I'm not sure if a big billboard right there, that's going to be a nuisance. As Councilman Rab was stating, we've had several complaints, and half of those are on the other side of the freeway. They're not even in the city of Perris. I wish we probably should have had some kind of regulations against it, which would have created some kind of fair thing. But I think, in hindsight, you probably should have just got one of the billboards earlier on. But I'm not sure if that's just the best look to add to more signage, especially promoting that. And I'm not just talking about marijuana, because I've supported many things because the residents of Perris have always voted for it. But it's just when it comes to tobacco, when it comes to the casinos as well too. I'll put them in the same category as well, and alcohol as well too. So I'm unfortunately gonna have to deny it, but I wish you the best of luck in your business.
Okay, thank you.
You can sit down. I just have comments, not questions. So yes, for starters, I do this a lot of times when it comes to cannabis issues. I'm retired law enforcement. I do not approve of this personally, but I cannot take my personal opinion on this. The people of Perris voted for the cannabis, the taxes and all that. However, none of that verbiage did it include signage. If you drive up and down the corridor of Perris, there is nothing but billboards, marijuana at their dispensaries, after dispensaries, after dispensaries. And Mr. Corona hit it on the nail, bullseye. You're the only one that you can see off the freeway. There's only one more that's further up.
Top shelf.
It used to be Top Shelf. Well, the one next to Top Shelf now, something meds, dynamic meds, that if you're the passenger of the car, you'll pick it up, because they have the green mesh there. Yours stands out like a sore thumb, which is great. You have good advantage compared to most of the other ones who are hidden, 3, 4, 5 miles inland from the freeway. And he said it mildly. As a mayor, I get a lot of complaints about parents calling me about these signs and their children having to look at all these signs well, I can't control that as the mayor nor this council. A lot of those are privately owned, Lamar and General, with the billboards, what have you. The other side is the county, so we don't even have an authority over there. So we can't control any of that, but on this particular matter, we can, because this is within our jurisdiction. I think that was it that I had to say. But anyway, don't get me wrong. It is. You guys did a great job. It's beautiful making that sign, but I can't. Oh, I know it now. I remember the other part. Excuse me. So there's apparently, and maybe Mr. Q, you can take this back to the office. There's also state law requires that you have to be certain that a certain amount of juveniles or young adults, I don't know how, you can't quote me on the verbiage, but they cannot be passing by or cannot see the sign as they're passing by. Pardon me?
Visibility.
Yeah, I forget how the wording is. And I don't know how that one, if it snuck through planning or not, it was looked into. It wasn't. I don't know how that could pass, the fact that you're next to a freeway. And what is it from the freeway? 200 feet from the freeway? Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think you can pass the state code on that one. So maybe we can look into that for any future requests for signs. Okay, I don't want to keep on delaying this. No other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilman Rab. Call the vote, please.
I'm approving to uphold the Planning Commission's denial.
Five oh, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 9F, we're still on 9. Consideration to adopt resolution number next in order upholding the Planning Commission's approval of conditional use permit 19-05083 as condition leaving in place condition number 6D as in David, 6E as in Edward, requiring that beer and wine be sold in multi-packs and establishing a minimum size for individual bottles of wine. This will be introduced by Dr. Grace Williams, our Director of Planning and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. This item will be presented by Kenneth Fung, our Planning Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. On June 19th, 2019, the Planning Commission unanimously voted to approve the CUP to upgrade a liquor license for California Mini Mart from Type 20 to a Type 21. The distinction is they were to upgrade from beer and wine to beer, wine, and distilled spirit, which effectively means short beer, just a hard liquor. Subject to the conditions that we've been incorporating since 2010, which is to require beers to be sold in multi-packs and to require the wine be sold in bottles of 750 milliliter, which is a typical wine bottle size. At the hearing, the applicant requested the removal of the conditions. The Planning Commission did consider their request, but after being informed that staff has been working with the Sheriff's Department to incorporate these conditions since 2010, they decided to leave the conditions in place. So before I begin, I just want to give you the context of the location to further kind of clarify where it's located at. The California Mini Mart is located at the southwest corner of 4th and Wilkerson Avenue. It's surrounded by Popeyes to the north, 7-Eleven to the east, Vacant Land to the south, and Gus Jr. Burger to the west. As a result of the approval with some stipulation, the applicant filed for an appeal on June 27th, asking that the City Council consider amending those conditions. As part of that application, the applicant submitted some information which was also presented to the Planning Commission. Some of that information included a letter from the police department in 2003, just kind of indicating the business owner does report if there's any incident at the property, showing that they work with the police department. They also submitted a letter with the Department of ABC in 2014 showing that there was a decoy going to the property and they did not sell to a minor. Also a letter from Riverside County Department of Environment Health where they had a decoy person going in and just to verify if they check if the individual was of age to sell tobacco, in which they pass. In addition, they submitted some additional letters from their patrons asking for support of the property, in which they submitted as part of the appeal application package. Since the appeal application, staff did route this appeal to the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department did issue a letter supporting many of the conditions. As part of that appeal, they did do some additional reviews from January 2018 to July 2019, showing that there was no issues at this site. As a result of, although there's police support, just because we've been incorporating this condition, staff is recommending that the City Council uphold the Planning Commission's approval of conditional use permit with the stipulation to require multi-packs and establish a minimum size for bottle of wine. I do want to note that we did provide an alternative resolution if the council decides if they want to allow the applicant to amend their conditions of approval, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any clarification questions real quick, Council? Yes. Councilman Corona?
For just a clarifying question, why are we doing a minimum size? I mean, I'm not saying like a handheld size, but like. Can you just kind of clarify? Is there a reasoning behind that?
I'm not positive. I think they just want to avoid selling to maybe an individual who just wants to get a small pack who can't. Let me just say, I don't know the exact answer for why the sheriff made that condition.
If I could add to that, was it because I read on the agenda that they don't want them buying just one pack and drinking it on the spot? Does that have anything?
Yeah, that's part of it.
And to avoid vagrancies and.
Yes, it's to discourage off-site consumption directly out of the store.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I have a few. Councilman Rabb?
Yes, just for clarification for the public, the sheriff's letter letter in support of removal of 6D and E also contained requirements the applicant would have to follow in order to gain their support, correct? It was included installing video cameras?
Correct.
Okay. And the letter wasn't, the planning commission, the letter came after the planning commission's approval of the license with the conditions C and D?
That is correct, because the applicant didn't review the condition. They were fully aware of it at the meeting, so, and that's when they made the request for the amendment.
So they knew that they knew the amendment was in there at the time that they applied. Is that what you just said?
This is a standard condition we put, so they weren't fully aware through the whole process, but when the package report is prepared, we send that package to them to review.
So the concerns I have is this applicant has been in business since 1999 in the city of Perris and has had a alcohol or a type 20 ABC liquor license, which is, I guess, beer and wine only. And they have followed the rules and the laws and have all these letters from people saying that they don't sell to minors and blah, blah, blah. Now they come to 20 years later, I'm sorry, July 27, today's 30, so it's been exactly 30 years now, or 20 years now. They are just simply upgrading their license. They're here for a new license. They're upgrading to full license, so now they can sell alcohol, spirits, liquor, hard liquor, right?
Correct.
So we should not penalize them and what they've had for the last 20 years and say, oh, by the way, now you can't do this, you can't do that. I don't think that's right at all. The Planning Commission from the get-go, this should have been grandfathered in, or at least brought back to staff or something to get this figured out and gone to the police, whatever. But you even have a letter from the police now saying that this is okay, the site and location is fine. So I mean, I can't see us penalizing someone who's been here, a business partner in our city for 20 years, and all of a sudden we're going to tell you, sorry, you know, even though you're just updating, we're going to change you back. So that's all I have. And I mean, the verbiage from, just so that people know, I mean, a review of calls for service from the police department found that there was no unusual problematic please, excuse me, use of police services at the location. The officer that wrote this up also said he would approve the sale of single cans and beer instead of a minimum of 3-pack, and to sell wine in smaller quantities than the 750 millimeters and or smaller than a 4-pack of wine coolers and cans of beer. So, I mean, if the police are approving this, then I'm good with this, and I think we should overturn this. Okay, or deny, overturn. All right, so that's my comments. I have Councilwoman Rogers in the queue.
Kenneth, the resolution that's on our screen and that's also on our agenda is to uphold the original denial by the Planning Commission. But you said you have another resolution in case the council wanted to go in a different direction. Is that correct?
Correct. There is a resolution as part of the agenda package.
Is there any way to get that resolution put on the screen so we can see it and the public can see it by any chance?
I can just read it. I don't have it on the slide, but I can just read the resolution.
Because that's what we want to have, the new resolution.
If I can read it right now.
As long as the public can hear you, and because what's being shown on the screen is the prior resolution, or the resolution that's up for us to consider tonight. That's also what's posted on the agenda that the public is seeing at home. So if you can read the wording of the other proposed resolution, that would be helpful.
Okay. It would be a resolution of the City Council of the City of Perris, California, approving an amendment to the conditions of approval for conditional use permit 1905-083 to remove conditions 6D and 6E as approved by the Planning Commission located at 511 4th Street at the corner of 4th Street and Wilkerson Avenue.
Thank you.
Is that all you have? Thank you. Okay, if there's nobody else in the queue, I'll entertain a motion, and you're going to have to, oh, I got to open.
Public hearing.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open up public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. Liliger Damasu?
Good evening. How are you today? My name is Liliger Damaso. Thank you so much for getting it right. I've been called Gilligan many times before, so I appreciate it. I am here in representation on behalf of liquor license agents. We assisted Mr. Meffers with his conditional use permit, and we are here to support the appeal process. As already stated, he's been part of this community for 20 years. He's operated this establishment responsibly since 1999. And the whole reason for him wanting to remove these two conditions is just very basic. There is a lot of competition out there, specifically 7-Eleven, Rio Ranch Market, and they just want to be able to still be a part of this community. Taking these away will affect them grandly in their business operation. This is a family-run business, husband, wife, 4 sons, and they want to continue to do so responsibly, of course. As I had mentioned previously, they already have security guards that patrol 3 times. It's 6 in the afternoon, 9 at night, and 12 a.m. And they also have the 6 security HD cameras inside and 2 outside, in addition to an alarm system with panic wireless buttons for every employee on duty. The whole purpose of them upgrading to a 21 was them to be able to have more things to offer at their mini mart and just create more foot traffic. They even remodeled their kitchen, their actual mini mart. They added a kitchen for crispy crunch chicken. So again, they just want to be able to offer more options for anyone to just walk in there and grab eggs, milk, chicken, beer, wine, whatever it may be. So at the end of the day, it's just that, sustainability, profitability. So we're just here to respectfully request your consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Ike Meffers?
Good evening, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, City of Perris. My name is Ike Meffers. I'm the applicant. And I thank you very much for giving this consideration. Like Lediga said, we've been here for 20 years, and we've really been responsible, doing the best we can in the community. I wrote a little letter here. If you can permit me, I can read it over. So it makes it a little bit more sense, so you can understand what I'm saying. My name is Ike Meffers. I am the current operator of California Mini Mart, located at 511 East 4th Street in Perris. I have responsibly operated Mini Mart with Type 20 ABC liquor license for beer and wine for off-site consumption since July 27, 1999. The site itself has operated with the Type 20 ABC license through another different tenant since December 1994. The license number is right there. I recently received an approval from the City of Perris for upgrade in the liquor license from Type 20 to Type 21 full liquor license consumption. The reason for this letter is for the council to reconsider the following conditions operational requirement for stated in CUP 19-050 and PCN 19-05084. No beer may be sold in single container. That's what the condition spelled. This condition spelled. No beer may be sold in single container. Beer shall be sold in a quantity of 3 pack and so on. Anyway, just this what we did last time. But given what I was saying is, given the demographics of this city and our market shares and precarious location outside the homes and neighborhood, we cannot survive. We cannot survive the impact of removal of single serve in the shop. We are currently struggling for market share between the two giants, namely 7-Eleven and Real Market. Packages are only sold in weekends for parties and special events, most likely due to the income in the demographics of this city. We cannot survive on tour packs and theme packs and this and that because not too many people have that kind of money to buy, $20 worth of beer at a time. And the shop has been operated as a single, designed in single serve for more than 20 years now. And, taking it away will greatly impact our business so much. Most people cannot afford to buy packages every time, every day, because of financial constraints. We are nowhere near any homes or apartments as a steady supply of stream of customers for packages. Single serve of beer and wine holds a critical 25% of our daily sale. This is critical because it has a better margin than the packages. Single serve draws in more foot traffic and that sustains the business than packages. The only competitive advantage we have right now between our giants in around of us is a single serve, and therefore taking it away leaves us no chance of competing. Not talk about survival. In other words, liquor from our own perspective should be an addition, not a subtraction to the business. Liquor sustains the business, especially in the winter periods when it's very, very cold. Beer sales drops and packages drops even to a freezing point. Liquor at the onset may not contribute anything significantly. Liquor might not contribute anything significantly. It may take 2 to 3 years before the impact could be felt. Even at that point, it would be happy if it can give us up to 5 or 10% of our sales, our daily sales. Now, from all indications, liquor 21 should be an addition to our business and to public convenience and necessity. By removing the single serve, it will impact our business negatively to the point of survival.
Mr. Murphys, your time's up. I need you to wrap it up.
Okay. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, it takes me more time to read. I'm so sorry to take your time.
We got your letter, though, too. Don't forget.
Okay, all right.
We got to read it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, the most important thing I want to say here is we've been the best ambassador of this city for so many years. We can say unpaid ambassador. Because we stay there, we represent the good people of this city from all aspects of life. People come over there, ask us, where is this, where is that, from trade directions to everything else. And me and my family grew up in this place. I love this city. And I very much like if you can help me to grow and be part of the city that I love. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else?
That is all.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll pose public hearing, and I'll call for a motion. We're going to make it a verbal motion by Councilwoman Rogers.
Before I make the motion, I'd also just like to add, in addition to being a business consideration for the applicant, as a great-grandmother, I'm very concerned with the number of recent arrests for drunk drivers. When you go into a store and in hot weather, if you grab more than 1 or 2 or 3 beers, you're likely to get in the car and drink all of those beers. So sometimes having the option of just having a cold beer, once you get home, you're not going to be out drinking and driving. So that's something to look at also. But I'd like to make a verbal motion and to kind of reread what Mr. Kenneth has already read, just to make sure that we're doing the second version of the resolution. So my motion would be to consider to adopt resolution number next in order, upholding the Planning Commission's approval of conditional use permit 19-05083 as conditioned, but removing the conditions of 6D and 6E. Thank you.
Have a second, please. Okay, I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers and a second by Councilman Rab. Please call the vote.
Five oh, motion approved.
Thank you. Okay, item 9G, consideration to adopt the first reading of ordinance number next in order, establishing a public art fee applicable to the new industrial development, and adopt resolution number next in order, establishing public art fees applicable to new industrial development.
Mr. Mayor, staff's requesting that item be continued, please.
Sure. 9G will be continued.
So I believe, it's going to be date uncertain, so do we have to open the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, because we're going to continue to date certain. No,
The staff
sorry.
recommendation is uncertain, so we'll renotice.
Okay. A motion to continue for a date uncertain.
So I don't have to open public hearing. Okay, so I need a motion to be continued to a date uncertain. And that's by Councilman Rab, second by Mayor Pro Tem Magana. Call the vote, please.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Okay, fine. Item 10 is business items, not requiring a public hearing. 10A is consideration to approve the 2019 and 2020-21 two-year budget. This will be introduced by Ron Carr, Interim Finance Director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My understanding is that the budget will be considered at a later date. However, one of the proposals in this year's budget was to pay off the city's CalPERS pension debt. And this item, when it was first discussed with the Ways and Means Committee a couple of months ago, they directed that staff work with an actuary, which is a pension expert, to come up with a study on the impact of paying off the city's pension debt. The report of the actuary was presented to the Ways and Means Committee in late June. It's also part of your packet. So this portion of the budget, this proposal, would like to present this evening, and to do that is Mary Beth Redding from the firm of Bartell and Associates, the actuary that the city hired to conduct the study. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mary Beth.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm going to give you a quick summary of the study we did of paying off the city's unfunded liabilities. Talk for a couple minutes about why the city has an unfunded liability. The city participates in CalPERS to provide pension benefits to its employees when they retire. The CalPERS system does have large unfunded liabilities for most of its participants, due mainly to poor investment return in 2008 and 9, and that was a long time ago now. The system, for various reasons, has really not responded well and recovered from that. CalPERS has been making a bunch of changes lately to sort of get their act together. They've looked back and said, these are things that didn't work so well that we were trying. We were trying to keep people's contribution rates level so we wouldn't have put a hardship on our cities, but it didn't work very well. So they've been trying to get their assumptions improved to make the CalPERS system much better funded overall. But all of those things really, they can't invent money. They can't just make money out of nowhere. So when they're trying to strengthen the system and get it better funded, that means more money has to come into the system, and that's more money coming from cities, its other member agencies. And that will help it be better funded overall. But that increases the unfunded amount of the city's liabilities at the moment. The city has two CalPERS plans. There's a plan for the miscellaneous employees. Those are the two bars on the left. They have just under $30 million of assets, just under $40 million of liabilities. That $40 million is amount that's owed now for services that employees have already rendered. So it's a cost of the benefits to be paid to retirees in the future, plus the cost of benefits for future retirees that have already been earned. And you can see there's a shortfall of about $9 million there. There is also still a plan for the police safety group. Even though those have not been actively employed by the city for quite a while, the city still does owe pension benefits for them. The liabilities are much smaller, but again, there's a $3 million underfunding in that plan. So total, and I should say that now, for the purpose of this chart, is June 30th of 2017, 2 years ago, because it's the most recent exact CalPERS information we have. So the city's total unfunded liability is just under $13 million as of 2 years ago. When we look at where the city's pension costs are going in the future, we've done a bunch of projections. This is the pattern of the city's costs over the next 30 years. It is not a pretty sight. In the current fiscal year, we think the city is paying about $1.3 million of pension costs. Sorry, that was June 30th, 19, the year that is now just over. For fiscal year 21, it's going to be about $1.9 million a year, going up by the early 2030s to over $3.3 million a year in pension costs. After that, it declines and comes out, at the end of time, 30 years from now, when all CalPERS's policies have hopefully paid off well, the cost should stabilize at a much more reasonable level, again, about $1.3 million. A couple ways to look at that, just sort of short-term projections. This is a projection, again, of the costs in millions of dollars over the next 10 years. The grayish line at the bottom is a safety plan, even though those people really are not with us anymore. Their costs go up to $500,000 a year, from about $200,000 a year. The miscellaneous plan is much steeper increases, from $1.1 million to $2.6 million a year for the next 10 years. Where's that coming from? The CalPERS bills the city in two pieces. One is the piece that's called normal cost. It's for the ongoing benefits employees earn every year. That's the blue line on this chart that's fairly level. The red line is the cost of the unfunded liability, the amount we owe for services already rendered by employees. And that's where CalPERS is really cranking up the funding levels, and the bill for that portion of the amounts owed is going to be going up very, very steeply, as you can see in the red line. So when we look at what can the city do about the unfunded liability, really there's no option to do anything about benefits being earned in the future, but really to look at how can we do something better for the unfunded amounts we already owe. Those are amounts owed to employees. The city does not have the funding for them, and CalPERS is essentially charging interest on that liability at 7% a year. Okay. It's not calculated exactly that way, but that's the essence of what it is. It's an obligation you owe that you're getting charged 7% a year for. So what can you do? There's really two options. One is to make extra payments to CalPERS. Part of the problem is that even though we see that there's a very escalating schedule of payments coming up over the next 30 years, it's going to take a very long time to pay off this unfunded liability on CalPERS's schedule. If you can pay it off much more quickly, you'll save a lot of interest. Kind of like, paying off your mortgage. You save a lot of interest if you pay it all right up front. We think that among the different options, that's probably the best in the long run, because we, as a firm, think that CalPERS will have better investment return than just about anybody else in the long run. Okay, nothing's guaranteed for any particular year, but if you look out over 20 or 30 years, we think they'll do better, partly because they have a lot of people intensively working on alternative investments, and partly because their investment fees are actually quite low, and we know from studies that over time that really matters. Okay. If you should decide to give extra money to CalPERS to pay off things at a faster rate or all at once, the one thing to be careful of is it's an irrevocable decision. You cannot change your mind later and take that money back or use it for any other purpose. Okay. The alternative that's very popular is a Section 115 supplemental trust where the city would open their own trust and put extra funds in this. You can have a little more leeway in how you invest it than with regular city funds, and the funds in these trusts can only be used to pay CalPERS. We would not recommend them to the city of Perris in this particular instance. We think that in the long run, they will generally have lower investment return than giving the money to CalPERS. Because most of those funds are invested particularly to be more stable and have a lower return. Also, many of them are through privately held firms that are charging higher expenses. Most of the people who are doing the 115 trusts are sort of treating them as a rainy day fund. They're putting a little bit of extra money there and saving it until some future point where they might need that money to pay the regular CalPERS contributions. And that's really not the issue that we were asked to evaluate. Go back. What we were asked to evaluate was for the city to make a one-time payment to CalPERS this summer of $13.5 million, which we estimate would totally pay off the unfunded liability as of June 30th, 2019. So that would be a one-time payment. It would get ahead of the curve in terms of paying off your CalPERS unfunded liability and save a lot of interest in the future. And the question is that really a good thing the city should do? Is that a wise decision? So what we did was some modeling to say, if we look out over 30 years, what's the likelihood that the city and its CalPERS plans will be better off if you make this one-time payment than if you don't? And because we're looking at things in the future, we had to use present values to say what's the value now of that money. We did it 2.67%, which is about the rate the city expects to earn on its internal funds. A lot of the question boils down to, over 30 years, is CalPERS going to earn an average of over 2.67% on the money it's invested? This is a picture of the average long-term rates. It's very, very, very likely that over 30 years, CalPERS will earn an average of 2.67% or better. It's much less likely if you look for any one particular year or any two particular years. But if you look over 30 years, it's very likely. So this is the way we presented our results for the miscellaneous plan. This chart says, what are the chances that you're going to be better off if you give CalPERS this extra money than if you don't? 5% of the time, you're actually worse off for the miscellaneous plan, to the tune of a very small amount of money, less than $1 million. All the rest of the time, you're better off, and the graphs kind of show how many dollars you're better off. So the 50th percentile return is you're about $7 million better off if you do this than if you don't. And overall, we project that 93% of the time, this is a very positive thing to do. For the safety plan, it's even more positive. The chances of it being negative are less than 5% of the time, and overall, the probability of succeeding is over 98%. So we think there's, you generally don't see numbers this good, but it would seem, while nothing is guaranteed, we think there's a very, very high likelihood that this would be a positive decision for the city to make this one-time payment to CalPERS. Remembering, of course, we can't give you an absolute guarantee that it will pay off. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we modified this. We're not going to open a public hearing, right?
Mr. Mayor, this item doesn't require a public hearing, but it might be a good idea to.
Well, it was part of the presentation of the budget, which was have to open a public hearing now?
No.
Okay, great.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, the budget was a business item, so it was not a public hearing.
Okay, great. So, can we proceed with this matter and vote on it, or we want to wait and tie it in with your budget?
This is essentially a receive and file item this evening, and it'll serve as input to the budget when it is presented.
Okay, very good. All right, we'll ask if anybody has questions.
Thank you.
Council, I have Councilwoman Rogers first.
No, that was before.
All right, David, you want to speak? Councilman Rab?
Yes, mine was more in the line of a comment regarding the budget. Given the extensiveness of the budget and several questions that I have and one of my colleagues have regarding the budget, I'd make a motion that we would continue discussion of the budget to our next regular meeting, which would be Tuesday, August the 13th. There's just a few things I'd like to go over regarding certain expenditures and certain revenues in the budget. And I think hearing it on our next meeting, which is in about 2 weeks, would give me ample time to review those items.
Right. We're doing that already. Councilman Corona?
Yes, I do have a question for regarding this topic. I feel like Perris, the city of Perris, is in a unique situation that you'd be presented this as information, seeing how our reserves are looking pretty good and stuff like that. Are there any cities who are actively working to pay their unfunded liabilities that you know of?
The only other city I know that's even considering it is a very small, very new city that has total liabilities on the order of $1 million. As far as I'm aware, of cities I've worked with, there's nobody else who's really in a position to do this, or to do this with the reserve money without borrowing.
Okay. So the city of Perris is unique, probably all across
I
California.
have to say, among my experience, and it may be that people with lots of money just don't talk to us because they don't need the calculations. I'm not sure, but I have not run into it before.
I know you worked with several cities, Mr. Carr. Is this something unique to Perris that we're even in this position?
Yeah. Given the city's reserves and the amount that CalPERS is charging, I don't see any better financial use of this money. And if we look back at the charts, this will generate millions of dollars in savings that will go right back into reserves over the years. So I think it's a very good decision.
And then, I definitely want to thank the individuals, Councilwoman Rogers and Councilwoman Magana, who are on the Ways and Means Committee, who were discussing this. I know it probably took a lot of efforts, but I definitely appreciate everyone that was involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
I think we're all proud to say that we're the position that we're in to be able to do this. I do not know of any other city being able to do this, so. But anyway, we'll look forward to our next time when we have our budget and hopefully include this back in there.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. 10B, Western Community Energy Update. This is introduced by Clara Miramontes, our Assistant City Manager.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Last summer, the city of Perris joined 6 other jurisdictions to form the Western Community Energy Joint Powers Authority, which is known as the WCE. The purpose of that was to create a community choice aggregation program that would allow communities like the city of Perris to have a choice for the purchase of electricity on behalf of its residents. This past year has been more of an exploratory process and to look into the feasibility of this program. At this time, the WCE is at a point where they are ready to launch the program in 2020, and it is seeking full commitment from cities that originally joined the WCE JPA. Throughout this last year, WRCOG has been running a series of studies, market analysis as to the savings, potential savings, and it does show that there is the possibility for 2% savings. So with that, I would like to introduce Ms. Barbara Spoonhour from WRCOG, who will be giving you a in-depth presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Council Member Rogers for being on our board of directors, and I'd also like to thank Mayor Vargas for being chair of the RCHCA, which WRCOG also administers. Before I begin my PowerPoint presentation, I have a 40-second video I'd like to show.
Perris residents will soon have a choice on how to power up their home or business. A new program, Western Community Energy, gives us a choice in how we get our electricity. Using existing transmission lines, this program gives Perris local control over rates and the kind of energy we receive. A recent survey found that 64% of county voters support participation in Western Community Energy. There's no risk to residents who can opt in or out of the program at any time. We all want lower rates and a choice for cleaner energy. Western Community Energy gives Perris and other cities in Riverside County control over where and how we get our electricity.
Deputy Executive Director of Operations at Western Riverside Council of Governments. We administer Western Community Energy, and I'm here to provide an update of where we are in the process of scheduling a launch in July of 2020. We are in the process of negotiating with Southern California Edison for our first power contract, so that is why we're here to talk about reconfirming the city's commitments and moving forward. So what will WCE do for the community? It provides the community with a choice. Right now, the residents have Southern California Edison, which purchases their energy and they deliver the energy. What WCE would do is it would buy the energy. Edison would still continue to distribute the energy to the consumer. It does create local control over the programs. The board of directors will set the rates for WCE and the community and its participants. It does create a favorable economic development opportunity because you are able to have lower rates to attract businesses. This is one thing that the city of Riverside really promotes when they're attracting their businesses, the fact that they're a municipality and they have lower rates than Southern California Edison. It does provide a greener mix if desired, and CCAs actually have a long track record of success. In May of 2016, when we started our feasibility study, there were 4 CCAs that represented about 30 cities, mainly in the Northern California area. In 2019, there's now 19 operational CCAs that represent 152 jurisdictions. By the time we get to our 2020 launch, there'll be over 24 CCAs that will represent over 165 jurisdictions. In Southern California's territory, over 70% of its cities are looking and exploring whether to form a CCA. All the CCAs continue to meet their objectives, whether they're rate savings or greenhouse gas savings or customer choice, local control. They all meet their objectives set by their boards and their consumers. And there's not been a jurisdiction that has dropped out from an active CCA. Our goals that the board has come up with is that it will offer a 35% renewable rate as its baseline for all customers and provide that rate with a discount. It'll also offer a 100% renewable option that's voluntary for customers who want to be more green to opt up for that option, which would be the Choice Plus plan. They have set a goal of building up its reserves, and again, we're looking at a launch in summer of 2020. Moving forward, we have done performas at least 6 different ways to Sunday on all various scenarios of high fees, energy costs going up, you name it, we've put it in there and we've continuously saw and continue to see that there is a savings. In August of 2019, we'll be entering into our first power contract for resource adequacy. What resource adequacy is the power that's needed to meet the peak demand of the consumer in August. So all utility providers and energy providers need to make sure that they have enough resources available to hit that and meet that peak demand. If the city did not want to participate in WCE after we have purchased these contracts, the city still has the ability, if it so desires, to withdraw from WCE with no financial liabilities. What it would need to do, as outlined in the JPA, is that the city would notify WCE, the board, that it no longer wants to have energy purchased on its behalf it can then allow those contracts to run out on their own and have no financial liability to the city. If the city really wanted out and wanted to immediately stop, it would notify WCE that it wanted to withdraw. However, WCE would then take the power that was needed to service its constituents, and we would sell that power out on the market. If the power was sold at a loss and there was a delta, then the city would be liable for that. The likelihood of that occurring with the energy markets that continue to rise is very unlikely. Energy contracts do have a value, so they're not, it's zero. It's never zero. And you take your time in selling these things. You don't, if the markets don't look good to sell, then you hold off and you sell them. Again, the city can just inform us if you want to withdraw at a later date after the energy contracts have been purchased and just wait out those contracts, then there's no financial liability. That's a lot to get through, sorry. Back to the 2% savings that we're looking at providing that our performance continuously look. When you compare them to, we have 7 member jurisdictions of WCE, 6 are slated to launch with us in 2020, including the city of Perris. At a 2% savings across the board for residential is about $258,000. Your commercial side, you see a lot more because you have a lot more commercial load in your city when you're looking at the load balance of what's being used. Your municipal accounts a little over $18,000, so total savings is a little over $839,000 in savings that the community would see on an annual basis. So this is money that's coming back into your communities and not going to Southern California Edison. WCE, earlier this year, we had our board directed us to begin the marketing and outreach into the communities. We've been underway with that for the past year. We have been at the Perris Health Fair as well as Rods and Rails, and we have PSAs scheduled for the next couple months to be in your Regency movie theater. We recently conducted a ratepayer survey of our member jurisdictions, specifically looking at the city of Perris's numbers. Over 70% say that they would support the city participating in WCE. 75.8% agree that they were in favor of saving any amount on their electric bill, if it was 1% or 5% or 2%. 65.2% said that they prefer options other than SCE, so they like the ability to have a choice. And again, customers, if they want to stay with Edison, they do have the ability to stay with Edison. They don't have to stay with WCE. 60.8% prefer energy rates being set by the local elected officials at public meetings that they can participate in. Currently, Southern California Edison is oversought by the California Public Utilities Commission, and those hearings are held in San Francisco. And those rates are set generally every 3 years, and normally a lot of public does not participate in those processes. So overall, the main reasons that voters want to participate in WCE, and this was a little bit shocking for us because we really thought it was going to be cost. It was actually that they liked more options and competition, and then was followed by a cost savings as the main reasons. So what's next for us? As we're starting through August through October, we'll be procuring resource adequacy. We'll also be looking at our other power contracts that we'll need to service customers. October through December, our board will be setting and designing the rates. May of 2020, we do need to notify customers under law. 60 days before service, 60 days after service, every customer receives notification that this is coming online. They have the ability to opt out at that time or after. If they do opt out and go back to Edison, Edison does require them to stay with them for a minimum of a year, and then they could come back to WCE if they so chose to. And then in the summer of 2020, we begin servicing customers. That completes my presentation, Mayor, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak from the public?
No, sir.
Anybody wishing to speak at this time on this matter? Okay, I'll open it up to council. And nobody wants to speak. Councilman Corona.
In your wait, I kind of want to go back a little bit. If we were to approve it, is the city, are you looking for the city to kind of work with you to promote it or to advertise it? Like for our residents?
WCE, WRCOG is currently covering all the startup costs. The city did join WCE back in June of 2018, so that you have been actively participating. Councilmember Rogers is actively participating on our board of directors. The marketing and advertising is done through WCE. They have a management services agreement with WRCOG, so myself and Tyler Masters, we do the promotion. We are not requiring anything from city staff in terms of resources or funding for it.
So kind of a more specific question. Will WCE be utilizing our city seal in their advertising campaign? I'm just kind of asking because other entities have done that, kind of created some confusion because they thought it was for the city. So I'm just kind of wondering if you anticipate.
If the city wants us to use its seal, it can. I know we use it to show that you're a member of WCE, and we put it in the video because you are a member of WCE.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Councilman Rab.
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. Would the WCE notify the customers within the Perris area that they have the option of switching back to Southern California Edison if they choose to?
Yes.
Okay. And would that be in a note, like a letter notice or an email or what sort of?
They get 2 physical notices prior to our launch and 2 physical notices after our launch. We will also be doing our social media. Our format right now is we're doing the introduction of WCE just to get people familiar. So when those notifications come around, our advertising will change as we get closer to make sure everyone understands that they can opt out and they can stay with Edison if they desire.
One more question. In terms of bill payment, is WCE working for methods for people to pay automatically online without any sort of fees and over the phone?
Great question. Since the Southern California Edison receives payment for distribution and they provide that service. So WCE is a line item on the Edison bill. The way the bill looks now, when you open your Edison bill, there's a line that says SCE generation, and then it says how much you've used, and then it has your kilowatt hours, and then it comes up with your little thing. And then underneath it says SCE distribution, and that's your wires and your poles and anything to do with transmission, and then that has your kilowatt hours and your. So WCE will just slide right in to where it says SCE generation, and it'll now say WCE generation. So the billing still goes through Edison because customers will continue to pay for that in that distribution piece.
Councilwoman Rogers.
It also would give the city an advantage as we go about recruiting people for retail and commercial by being able to offer them extremely reduced rates if they're in competition between the city of Perris and another city that may not be able to offer them savings on their utilities or Edison bill, that we would be able to do that. There's also some advantages as far as our residential customers. They'd still be able to take advantage of the CARE programs and different other programs that Edison offers. As we get into the launch, that we will be setting reserves and determining some other advantages for residential customers as well.
Man, you should have done a presentation. You're good.
Well, it's been a year full of meetings, so there's a lot to absorb. But we're a very aggressive group, and we've been working very hard to bring this to launch, to give our consumers a choice A small savings is something to, and also there's the renewable energy. So many people right now are looking for ways to participate in programs that offers renewable energy. So that will be something we'll be able to do as well. So that's a plus.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the survey?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. So anyway, I'm here by the people and for the people, and you did a survey, and 70% said that they support participating in WCE. 65% prefer options other than this. To me, the survey itself speaks for the people and what they want, and they want choice, and I think we should be giving them a choice of where they go, so.
You had very high survey numbers amongst the member
what I heard.
jurisdictions.
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Public comment. Do we have any requests to speak, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Is there anybody at this time wishing to speak on this matter? All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Have a motion by Councilman Corona and second by David Starr Rab. Call the vote, please.
5-0, motion approved.
There you have it. Thank you. Item C, designation of city council member voting delegates and alternates for the League of California Cities Annual Conference held in Long Beach, California, October 16th through the 18th. This will be introduced by our city manager, Richard Belmudez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Annually, you select a delegate and an alternate to vote at the annual general membership conference. This year, at least at this point, the only one that's indicated desire that is going to be able to attend is our Mayor Pro Tem Magana. Therefore, the recommendation is she be the delegate and the alternate.
All right, very good. Well, then I motion to that we select Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
All right, any questions? Call the vote, please. Make sure that one gets in real quick.
5-0, motion approved.
Very good. Congratulations. All right. Item 11 is our public comments. Madam Clerk, who do we have?
Bill Lamb.
All right, Mr. Lamb, come on up. You are the next contestant.
Good evening, Mayor Vargas, members of the City Council. I'm Bill Lamb from the Southern California Railway Museum. With me today is Heather Garcia. She is the museum's corporate secretary. She is a high school teacher, and the last month she spent in Africa teaching teachers in Africa. First, I'm going to go through the events coming up, and assuming I'm not too long-winded, then Heather will have a couple of comments on her background. Coming up in September 21st, we have moved Perris Appreciation Day to that day, hopefully getting a cooler period. As I've said before, I ran Mayor Vargas ragged 2 years ago.
Yes, you did.
And he was very polite about it. And then this year, for Perris Appreciation Day, we'll also be having Daniel Tiger. He is a PBS character, and he will be at the museum from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. He was there one day before, and he has proved very popular with the children. Then in October, the 3 weekends starting October 12th, running the weekends through October 27th, we will be having our annual Pumpkin Patch Express. This year we'll be having a Ferris wheel, a petting zoo, pumpkins. We'll also be having a terror train on Friday and Saturday nights for primarily teenagers and young adults. We will see how that goes. Then in November, November 2 and 3, 9th, 10th, and 11th, we will be having Thomas and Percy again, along with the petting zoo, opportunity to buy toys, believe it or not, and other events related to Thomas. And then the last item, and we don't have a flyer for it, 2 weeks ago, the museum executed a contract with Rail Events for Polar Express. So this year we will be having Polar Express train rides from shortly after Thanksgiving till shortly after Christmas. They will be running 6 days a week, and we will have more information for the council at future meetings as we work on the plan. We did file permits today with the city, and we're looking forward to that. It ought to be an exciting time. With that, I will turn it over to Heather to make a few comments on her background.
Hi, actually it looks like we're out of time. I just want to say hi, my name's Heather Garcia. I was here in May, wasn't here in June because obviously I was out of country. I do a lot of community service. I've been with the museum for 6 years, corporate secretary for 4. I'm on the planning committee and the advertising and events committee as well. So you'll be seeing me around, and I'll be going to chambers meetings, so hopefully I'll see your faces, stop by, say hi, shake my hand, so I get to know your faces as well. Thank you.
Where do you teach?
I teach AP Biology.
No, where?
Oh, Chino Valley Unified District.
Chino Valley, very good.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Anybody else?
That is all.
Anybody at this time wishing to speak on any matter? Come on up, state your name.
Yeah, my name's Claire White. A lot of them know me as Pauline. We've had several issues, but I'm going to address some of it, but I'll run out of time, I know that. So I'm going to let somebody else do it for me. Anyways, several of us have been trying to get rid of the weeds in the back of our house since March because of the rain we had this past winter. No one came to clean up until June the 1st. When they came, oh, and by the way, I did work with Mayor Vargas on this, and he had addressed me on this way before time. But anyways, when they came to clean it up, they just used a weed whacker and did not remove the weeds, the one that they cut up. When I asked why they didn't pick it up, they told me that it would be no danger to us as it was cut. Then we didn't have to worry about fires. They also would not cut some of the plants. They said that was because they were endangered plants, and which I did not agree. The first fire we had was June the 10th, but it was further out in the back, and it was in the daytime. The fire department got it out. Then in July, we had at least 5 different fires in 1 week, and one was so close that we thought we would have to evacuate. That one was on July 11th, which was started at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It also burnt part of our fence. We had we not helped each other with getting the water out to get the water around the fence, it would have burnt, and we would have had to leave. These fires went on for a period of a week. We never knew if the fires were going to be at night or daytime. It has been very stressful for all of us who live here. We finally got a hold of Malcolm Corona last Tuesday, and he came out to see us, and I was able to give him a lot of photos, and I think that we could, and we did what we could anyways. I felt that Code was more concerned about the endangered plants than he was about our homes. Then we had to deal with another issue regarding an empty house on our street, which was the following week. Calling 911 was a joke because the response we got from dispatch was useless. We've had to deal with a specific house for over 2 years with the homeless, but we were hoping that it was finally over. The first day we had to deal with that issue regarding the house was on the 15th of July. I was able to, one of my neighbors called me because she had to go to emergency, so she called me to see if I could call the police, and I told her I would go with my husband. I told him we had called the police and he had to go. He didn't believe us. And he said he had a lease, which we knew he didn't because I have the phone number of the owner. But she just came to flip it, and they're selling it anyways. And the escrow's supposed to close tomorrow. Then last week, we had to call 911 several times in the middle of the night because he kept coming back at night. The issue got so bad that the only option was to call Mayor Vargas. He was very helpful and sent Officer Crawford. It is not the way that it should have went. I don't think I should have to contact Malcolm Corona or the mayor in order to get help. It should, as far as I'm concerned, it should be the actual departments that we're trying to get a hold of. And as for the phone number that you have on your cards, or even in your phone directory, was wrong. You had dialed 210-1000. When you dial that number, because I was trying to get a hold of the sheriff the next day, when you dial that number, it says if you want to speak to a sergeant or an officer, press 1. When you got that number, it became a different number they give you. When I called that number, it says it was out of order. So that's when Officer Crawford, we took that up before him, and he was going to check into it.
Claire?
Yes.
Your time has been way over. I need you to wrap it up. That's okay.
Anyways, the thing that I wish that we didn't have to go the route we've had to get any help. It shouldn't go that way. So and thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And the chief's right there in the back room. He'd love to have a chat with you.
Mr. Mayor, council, staff, I got some paperwork for the council, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I have a problem.
Can you pull up the microphone to your,
I'm sorry.
so we can hear you better?
I have a problem with going to pay, getting my bill in the mail. Oh, excuse me, dear. I gave you the wrong one. I gave you the wrong one. I gave you my papers. One each member. On the paperwork, it's a different time to pay the bill every month. Sometimes it's over 2 weeks. Sometimes it's 1 week. And everything is not on the bill. Sometimes the debt SV is on the bill. Sometimes it's not on the bill. Also, this past month, for the bill that's supposed to be paid in July, I received the bill on the 25th, and Thursday the 25th, and they want it paid by the 1st. Also, they've got the EMWD sewer, it's up to $42.30. But they don't tell you why it's on the bill that much. So I went and raised hell yesterday, and I got the letter informing me why the bill was increased. Now, why couldn't the powers to be send a copy with each mailing? Oh, they said, you got a bill in the mail, a letter in the mail last year about this. Who's going to remember last year getting a letter in the mail? All this is going to go up. Now, this is not the first time I've had trouble with this billing department. I got very annoyed last year when I got a bill in the mail saying past due. I never had the bill. I came in past due. I go to the office, ask the supervisor, what the hell is this? Excuse my English. What's this? Oh, the machine made a mistake. I said, if you knew the machine made a mistake, why didn't you stop printing and send new bills out? Oh, that costs money. Now when you go down there, they're blaming everybody but a humanoid. Oh, the computer don't work. It gets lost in the mail going to San Bernardino. Or the template don't hold everything. There's more excuses than Carter's got pills. Nobody wants to take action in this department. You talk to them, you might as well speak to the wall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And oh, one more thing. Thank you, Malcolm, for coming and seeing about the fires. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for getting Crawford. Crawford's an asset to this community.
Yes, he is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Lonnie Pine. Thank you, Mayor, Council. I want to talk about the weeds and the lack of code this year doing any weed abatement anywhere. You drive around this city, there are weeds 4 and 5 feet high in private property, empty lots. We had a very bad winter. We are going to have a high fire season. We have been telling people, the code, the city, since March. We are going to have bad fires, and we've already had 7 in my neighborhood. And I'm not talking for my neighborhood, I'm talking for this entire city. The on and off ramps of the freeways are 5 feet tall in weeds. If you're sitting on that freeway waiting to get off and a fire starts, you have no place to go. You are sitting in a car with fire on both sides of you. And something broke down this year with code and the enforcement of weed abatement, because I have not seen it done. And it really needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Martha Hurtado, and I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I live on the same neighborhood that they live, except I live on off of Highland Vista. And there is an area right there in front of the school where there's those rocks between, I think it's Med and Highland Vista. And I don't know if it's the city's responsibility to clean that area, or if that property belongs to the houses there. But that is just a fire waiting to happen. And if there was a fire to get started there, those houses would go in a minute. And you know, a lot of kids from the school, they hang out there. And all someone has to pass by with a cigarette or something and just drop it, and there's going to be a fire. So I just wanted to bring it to, to you so that maybe you guys can take care of it. Like I said, I don't know if it's the city that's supposed to clean it, or if it's private property, or if it's property that belongs to those houses there. And I just want to thank Malcolm Corona. He comes around, he's so helpful, and he really communicates with the people, and I appreciate that. I mean, I'm pretty sure the rest of you guys are nice, but I've never had an opportunity to meet you, but he's always been very helpful. Thank you very much.
No problem. We're going to send Malcolm out to clean those weeds out for you. Anybody else? All right, so that's it for our public comments. We will now move to item 12, council communications. Councilman Reb.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Vargas. Given the lateness of the hour, I'll keep my communications brief. If I could have code enforcement and the Public Works Department team up to walk down D Street, starting at City Hall, go down to 11th Street, and just look at some of the violations and some of the common areas that need a little upkeep, and then map it out in terms of working with the businesses to clean up some of the signage, working to clean up some of the debris, some of the weeds that have developed in the planters. Also need the same thing for the area of 4th Street, particularly between D Street and G Street. There's a segment there between Tasty Freeze, where the Potter's House used to be at, the red brick building, and then there used to be a flower shop. The owner of that facility, I guess he's just forgot that he owns it, because it looks like in the Navy what we'd call a bag of, you could say, from there, but it just looks very deplorable in the middle of the city. And then I also need them, and I think you should walk it, because when you walk it, you really see how it's not upkept. A lot of the pocket parks in that area, I know we're in the process of selling those, but as long as they're city property, they should be upkept. They should be kept up. Perris Boulevard from 11th Street, particularly from 4th Street, on up to the Stater Brothers Market. We can walk down there. Some of the property owners, they've kept their weeds down. There's about 2 or 3 houses. Once you go over the bridge, there's about 2 houses where they haven't kept it from the sidewalk to the curb, which I understand is the city's responsibility. So if Public Works and code enforcement can get together when it cools down, maybe in the evening, maybe in the morning, just walk those areas, just note the code enforcement violations would be much appreciated. Thanks to all the speakers for coming out and bringing those to my attention. Regarding the areas there, if we can work with the residents of Highland Vista to address those issues. On a related note, I would like to send my condolences to the residents of Highland Vista, along with the members of Miss Flora Cohen-Sarno's family. There were a lot of times we disagreed on many issues, but I can really say that when she moved to New York, we were good friends, and I saw her off when she moved there. So just want to send my condolences to her family, to the residents of Highland Vista. Just to pray for her family. She had a very aggressive form of ALS disease, and just want to send my condolences. I know Ms. Rogers will have more to add to that. So once again, thanks to everyone for coming out today.
Thank you. Councilman Corona?
Okay, I'm gonna be brief, but it's been a while, so you just gotta bear with me. But I'll try to be quick.
He's not going to be brief.
Well, I'll do my best because a lot of issues did arise since we were gone. The first thing I do want to bring up is, I know a few months ago, our residents were receiving a letter in the mail from, I believe it was SLW Insurance. I know the council, we voted on it, trying to allow our residents to know about different services that aren't provided maybe in your own insurance or the city doesn't provide. But it did create some confusion because they were kind of abusing our city seal. So it created confusion whether it was from the city of Perris or not. And I think as a city, we do need to take control of our own seal, which is why I did ask that question earlier. If other entities are going to be using our city seal on their mailing, because it does create some confusion. It makes it look like it's official. So that the next time the city does send something out, they're not going to be sure if it's important or not. So if we could just possibly bring that up to for review again, to bring it back for a vote, I guess would be the option. With regards to the weed abatements, yes, we do have an issue. I know some areas our Public Works is getting that. I've seen some areas that look nice, but there are a lot of work, and some of those areas that Councilman Rad was talking about, they do need just a nice good cleaning out there. I completely get what he's saying about having to walk it. I ran in the morning with the cross country team, and just seeing the amount of shopping carts just left, and then some of them are hidden that a person wouldn't know. I'm not saying to walk from Placencia all the way to Nueva Road on Perris Boulevard, but at least maybe a slow drive, or so some areas definitely need to get those shopping carts out, and also contact Caltrans because our on ramps and off ramps they're not looking too good. I know they're not just ignoring other cities, because I go to other cities and they're upkept. So I don't know what they're doing or what's going on with their relationship with Caltrans, but we need to get on them. And then also talk to our absentee landowners, because if you have a property, it's your responsibility to keep it up. So it's a shame when some of our residents are taking care of the yards, but the yard next door is somebody probably in Orange County somewhere, and they're just letting it go and they don't care. So if we could do that. I will say lately our residents, on a different topic regarding our parks, our staff has done an awesome job with the outreach. We gone to Copper Creek and did a tremendous outreach, just getting the input from our residents. And if it was good or bad opinions, it was honest opinions. So I definitely want to encourage the residents to keep coming out. I also went to the area over there by Enchanted Hills, and they're so excited for the potential, hopefully, that we potentially get a park over there. They're well deserving. They're very humble people. They're looking forward to getting something over there. Also on Thursday, Copper Creek Park at 6:30. We want your input again. So that we're gonna have another outreach event over there at Copper Creek. So please come out, give us your opinions. It's really gonna take all of us to improve our parks. And last week, we had our homeless task force subcommittee. I will say it was another successful meeting as we're seeing the results. We are making progress, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So I'm glad what SWAG has been doing. They've been doing a tremendous job working with the code and working with our law enforcement and of course with the city. So at the same time they're helping us as council members understand what the challenges are going forward. Yesterday, I also had the opportunity to go with several of our staff members. We went to the city of Pomona to look at what they're doing. They currently have a homeless shelter. I'm not saying that that's best for the city of Perris, but at least it's an option for us to see what other cities are doing. But that's a city that has twice the amount of people, residents we have, but they have 10 times the amount of homeless that we have. So they really have issues, and unfortunately, they've had to be reactive. Most of these cities had to be reactive in their efforts, where like we told them how many people we have, and they literally laughed at us because how small amount we have. But I'm not saying it's not an issue, because I know we don't have the issue that LA has, or we don't have the issue that Riverside has. But I'm not the council member of those cities, so my goal is to make sure that we never even get to that level, because I don't want to be reactive as opposed to proactive. So that kind of gets to my next issue. It's not even a homeless issue, because I want to let the public know the city is making extraordinary efforts of helping out anybody that's homeless. Anybody that you see walking around the street, they've all been contacted, every single one of them. They've all been given the option. They've all been given the resources. I don't want to say we don't have a homeless issue, because I know people are going to take that the wrong way. But what we have more is a vagrancy issue. We have an issue of individuals who have all been given the help, all been given the support, but just continue to refuse to get the support. So we definitely need to step up our levels. Being homeless shouldn't mean that you're able to just act, to be a nuisance for everybody else. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have a right to be aggressively panhandling people that are trying to get into a supermarket. What they're trying to do is get to a supermarket, and every time they go there, they're being aggressively asked to help. Being homeless is, shouldn't give anybody a right to just be drunk in the park bench, or on worse, what I've seen pictures of on social media is people are hanging out on the gym equipment for the kids. They're sleeping up there. So you have mothers trying to take their kids there, and there's a grown man drugged up on there. So it's not. So I don't want to make an attack on the homeless, but we do have a vagrancy issue. Speaking to our downtown, some of our downtown businesses, just kind of going there. I sat down with some of our downtown businesses, and they are really in desperate need of support over there. They got people running across the street. I'm going to say it, but they have people defecating and urinating in their place of business, right on the boundaries. And that's unacceptable for a city who's trying to grow, who's trying to promote themselves. People going into the streets and kicking cars as they walk by, it's just unacceptable. People walking in and just blatantly just stealing, just shoplifting, and no regards to what's going to happen. And I'm not going to, I know our sheriff's department is doing their best, but unfortunately with some of the state laws, their hands are tied on a lot of these things. They arrest them, they give them a citation, and then they have to let them go, and it's just unacceptable. But so I definitely think that we could do more. We could do more as a city, but it's really going to take all of our efforts. It's becoming to be a point where they're not just a danger to others, but they're a danger to themselves. For example, social media once again, people are just I'm not sure if it's drugs or if it's mental illness. I know that SWAG, they did a survey. It was about 80% of them had some form of mental illness. 80% of them had some form of drug addiction. But we have individuals for one example, I'll just say, you all probably saw the video, but someone was drinking out of a car wash, the water out of a car wash. Other people are just are walking the streets or walking in the middle of the streets without any regard for their own safety. And the examples that I heard when I spoke to the residents of Highland Vista, this is a community of mostly senior citizen residents. Okay, a community that should be the safest place. And when I was younger, it was a nice, quiet community. Well, with the lack of enforcement in the hills above them, there's been several fires, not just one fire, not two, of several fires almost on a daily basis or every other day, to the point where the fire came up to Miss White's fence and burnt the fence. Now, these are senior citizens. Now she can drive, she could walk her dog, but there's residents in there who are bedridden. So can you imagine if the fire got out of control and just went from house to house to house, like we've seen in other cities in Northern California? It would be a tragedy because it's almost 100% preventable. So I think it's important that we do take steps to be more aggressive. It's really going to take all of our efforts. I want to challenge our staff, and I also want to challenge to to my colleagues as well to continue to educate yourself and educate the public as well. I want to challenge to continually support our code enforcement and our law enforcement for aggressively enforcing our ordinances that we do have on the cities for everybody else, right? It shouldn't be anyone's immune from it. And to especially our residents. Our residents are probably the most important. So I want to speak to our residents really quick. Please do not give to panhandlers. You're not doing them any good. We spend $11,000 a month. You're already spending money in your form of taxes. So what you're doing is, instead of helping the person, you're actually counting our efforts. It's actually negative when you do it. And with the majority of them having some form of drug addiction, what you're doing is most likely you're just buying their next fix for that quick second for you to feel good about yourself. Now I'm all for helping those that are needed, but I'm more into helping those that want the help, that are seeking the help, and we are making efforts for it. So please just do not give, because it really is very counterproductive to what our efforts are. At the same time, too, if you do see any issues with the vagrancy, instead of taking out your phone and taking a video, call the law enforcement. If it's a non-emergency, the number is 951-776-1099. I think you would have had better luck with that one, Ms. White. And that's option 5, so you don't have to go through all the options. And of course, if it is an emergency, dial 911. So if someone's having a medical emergency, don't just ignore them, just thinking like, oh, they're just passed out or whatever. Dial 911. Yeah, so it's really going to take all of us, but I know that if we work together and if we're creative, we're not going to see the same issues that we're seeing in other cities. But I just want to, and with that said, I just want to wish all the students who are going to be starting next week the best of luck. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Rogers.
I'd like to invite the entire community to come out to Fossfield on Monday night, August 12th at 6 p.m. The Perris chapter of the Cops and Clergy Network will be hosting their annual night of prayer. So please join the local pastors as they pray over our nation, our state, our city, our schools, our disabled, our military, our law enforcement, our veterans. It's always a time to pray. We want the whole community to come out and support the event. There will be some seating, but bring your lawn chairs and just come out and have a wonderful time as we pray that night. And so we look forward to seeing anyone that can make it to come out that night. And on July 17th, we did lose longtime Highland Vista resident, Ms. Flo Cohen-Cerno. And her heart was always here in the city and the residents here of Perris. Unfortunately, just about a year ago, she had to return home to her family in New York so they could take better care of her as her ALS had her go through a lot of changes that she wasn't able to take care of herself anymore. I was able to communicate with her, as several others were, through a special machine that we could send emails. And one of her last emails to me, about a week before she passed away, was asking about the city of Perris, about our city manager, and how the council was doing. So her heart was always here. So I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting in memory of Flo Cohen-Cerno, Mr. Mayor. And for those of you in Highland Vista, she was a true advocate for that community, a good friend to so many people up there, a good friend to so many of us sitting here on the diocese, and her heart remained here, and she always cared about this council and this community. So please keep that family lifted up in prayer. Her services in New York will be August 3rd, so the family will be going through that. So, and that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go ahead and start off by thanking Mr. and Mrs. White, Mrs. Pine, and Mrs. Hurtado for taking the opportunity to come and express your concerns. It has been noted, and I encourage, on that note, all residents to do as they just did. Oftentimes, we kick the issues around and we feel like we have nowhere to turn, but this platform is a great way and a great resource for you to come and advocate and express your concerns. The same way you have stresses and issues in your neighborhood, I'm sure it's happening in other areas of Perris. So we don't want you to be dealing with that, and we hope that you use this platform, and I can almost assure you that we will do whatever needs to be done to meet those needs. And then I'd also like to note and give a very big thank you to my colleagues here who have appointed me to be the delegate. I am so excited and just so honored and humbled to have this opportunity. And I reserve the rest of my comments just based on not, yeah. So thank you so much, and everyone have a good night.
Thank you. Well, I have a big laundry list, but we're going to cut it really, really short because of the time. But as far as the weeds of the off-ramp, I sit on the I sit on Riverside County Transportation Commission, and I have often complained about that, and I will be readdressing it again to remind them. And you're right, Mr. Councilman Corona, you do look at other cities, and it's like, wow, what's up with Perris? Why can't we look like that? So I'll keep addressing. There's a member that sits on our commission from Caltrans, so I will keep knocking them. And this is, just like Mayor Pro Tem, this is very important. I've told you many times, Claire, come to the City Hall. Put it on public record when you're having issues in your neighborhoods, whatever. This way we have to get those things addressed. The weeds behind Highland Vista, so I've been working with you on that for a while, and code, there is an abatement process has been initiated, but there does take time. There's legal steps, whatever has to be done. But that being said, perhaps we can get a brief presentation by code as far as what the process is on weed abatements, so the people understand the time elements. Just so, because it does make it look like we're not doing anything, and maybe we can get an idea of how the process is done, so they can understand. Public Works, I know there's weeds everywhere. I complain personally. I use the app on it, but you know what? These guys are busting their heinies all over the town. There's weeds everywhere, but a lot of areas are being picked up, and we only have so many men and women on Public Works, so that they're doing the best they can. But coming here and addressing it, like I said, puts us on check. The Public Works Director sitting right here. He'll hear it. Use the app. It's documented. And I want to apologize to the community for those who were involved. And last Friday we had the YAC, the Youth Advisory Committee End of Year Barbecue, which was misconstrued as the backpack giveaway, and parents were there thinking it was for the backpack giveaway. So were the kids. It was not a backpack giveaway event. It was a barbecue, an end of the year barbecue for the youth, and some raffles were going to be given out, and the word backpack was mentioned. So it it just got really miscommunicated, and so we do apologize for that, but next year, we're going to stand by for next year on a backpack giveaway. It's going to be great. So with that, the only thing I have, those are just comments I had to throw in, but on my big wish list, I'm just going to highlight 3 lines here. And my United States Conference of Mayors Conference last month, I went and I focused on homelessness and economic development issues. And I have a slide presentation that I'm going to be putting on here in a few minutes. It's about 2 hours long. No, we're going to hold that for the next meeting. It's not very long, but it's what they're doing in Honolulu about their homeless, who has a lot of homeless. I mean, just as Mr. Corona said earlier, the way I put it is we don't have, number one, we don't have a chronic problem in Perris. We have homeless issues, but it's not chronic. It's nowhere near these other big cities or even our neighboring cities of Riverside or Hemet for that matter. But anyway, they had some pretty unique ideas that I'm just bringing it to share with staff and with our homeless ad hoc committee as well on a couple of things they're doing. I thought that really was very effective and maybe just something we can look at. They also introduced one of the cities is doing a city ID card that I already talked to the city manager about. It's an ID card for everybody, whether you're a minor or an adult, and it can tie into if they're on the same platform as this is done through with MasterCard. It can also be an ATM card, a debit card that is free for the residents. You know, they can add money into it. The kids can tie in their bus pass onto this card as well as a library card. So it's an all-inclusive card. And I'd really like to see maybe we can do something, at least look into it as a city. And the other area I worked with or followed up on was jobs, education, workforce, and empowering America's youth through civic involvement. And of all times, at the end of July, they just had at the end of last week, they just had a youth summit with the mayors and their YAC committees, but it was just too late in the day to do that. But so we're going to start working more with these youngsters. And the jobs and educational workforce is something I've always had a passion in. Being a former school board member, I meet with the superintendents 2 out of 3 on a monthly basis. So I'm working on the 3rd one. So there's just a lot of information when you go to these conferences. And of course, I'm not going to sit here and just go through the whole laundry list. But I'm definitely going to bring back at our next meeting, it's going to be scheduled as a presentation to show this slide presentation. And then from there on, I will pass the slide to you guys so you can take it back to your ad hoc committee as well. All right, so I think that's it for the important stuff. And everything was important here, but let me just say one more thing. Citrus Hill High School Baseball Clinic, led by varsity head coach Dean Valenzuela and his coaching staff, were free. They held 4 baseball camps free to kids from Little League up to high school age, all out of their own pocket. They didn't ask for any money. They bought T-shirts for the kids. They used the equipment from Citrus Hill High School baseball program. I was lucky enough and got them a donation from one of our business partners to help them with T-shirts at the last two camps. I think it was right that they had to dish out their own money, and they're providing all this time free, giving back to the community, and very well attended. I think they had 50 to 60 kids at each camp, so it was pretty awesome. All right, I'll leave that alone. Mr. City Manager, you're next.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just a couple community items, community events coming up. I think Councilmember Corona mentioned the the outreach at Copper Creek. That's Thursday, August 1st, 6:30 to 8:30, and we're looking for input from that surrounding neighborhood on either redesign or what we can do to improve the park. We are also working with the Sheriff's Departments for National Night Out, which will take place next Tuesday, August 6th, 3 p.m. at the Statler Youth Center. And then finally, our Movies in the Park series continues. The next one is scheduled for Friday, August 9th at dusk, and the movie will be Aquaman at Monument Ranch Park. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. All right, our next item is adjournment. I want to appreciate everybody for being here. We are going to adjourn in honor and memory of Ms. Flo Cohen Sarno. Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and have a good evening. What's left.